Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of FPL BlackBox. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. I am joined by Mr. Mark Southerns. How are you, Mark?
I'm confused. My mind has been blown by. I spent the day watching FPL Wire, watching Planet FPL, which I love doing. I've got a new telly actually, and I stuck them up on the telly, and it's the first time I've actually watched a load of content on the telly. It was really good. So I sat there with the kids playing
a widescreen.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed it. So taking it all in, and then I was, getting my head around what to do with these double game weeks and blanks, and where it's best to play, and I think this episode is going to be largely dedicated to that, and what we're going to do, but also what you could do, because everyone's got different teams, different situations, and I think what's nice about this show is that we've got two different perspectives. I've got my wild card, and I don't really want to change my team, and you haven't got your wild card, and you desperately need to change your team. Isn't that basically a fair summary? I can't hear you, Az. Oh, you've dropped out of Squadcast, I think. Oh, that's a good start. What's happened there? You want to rejoin Squadcast and come back in? You have muted, I think. Should we go into Zoom and try that? I don't believe it. This happened last week, but it only happened about an hour into it. Now it's happened straight away. Can you hear me now? Can you unmute in Zoom and see what I can hear?
Yeah, right. Can you hear me in Zoom?
Yeah, so it's Squadcast that it's wrong. So we'll have to leave Squadcast and basically
classic
do it about it. Yeah, I don't know what happened there, but anyway, but I don't know whether anyone can hear us. Can you speak there, Az, so I can see? Yeah, people can hear us. It's fine. We're okay. We're okay.
I don't know what happened. Literally, no idea.
You dropped
what
out.
Happened there?
You dropped out of Squadcast, I think. So never mind. We're using Zoom, and the sound's okay. I think everyone can hear us, and it's going to be okay. We'll have a bit less quality on the podcast this week, but that's fine. Yeah. So I was saying that we've got two different perspectives in the show, and you haven't got your wild card, so you've got to do completely different things to me, and you have no nerves about changing your team, do you?
Oh no, none. It's all going really well. I haven't got any injury problems, especially in defence. I'll probably just bank the transfer this week, to be honest, and absolutely not. It's a nightmare. I wish that I had a wild card because I think I can make really good use of it right now, but unfortunately I don't, so I've got to make the best of it.
Yeah, you're having a rough time of it, and the injuries to Chilwell, to James, and now Lamptey, was that confirmed today as well? Is he going to be out?
Yeah, confirmed out. Yeah,
he's been a curse, hasn't he? Because he's been a real tease, because he's looked a great player, and it looks like he's got loads of FPL potential. Never quite delivered on it. Never given you the double figure return that you know is in there. And in fact, his biggest return came at Spurs away, which was a game where perhaps you wouldn't have played him.
He came off my bench in that week, so I can't be too. Yeah,
okay. But others got stung by that, quite understandably. Yeah. And the other thing is, he's always had flags all over the place. Like every other week, he's got a flag, and he's been a bit of a nightmare when it comes to troll of the season. So far, he's got to be up there, I would have said.
Yeah, him and Mahrez, I think, are both up there. I've had both.
Yeah, you're getting personal there, and you're using your own code. But I think Lamptey's been far and wide a troll for a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, at least Lamptey has got over sort of 3 or 4 points a couple of times this season. I mean, yeah, it's been really frustrating. Lamptey, I mean, the thing with Brighton is I think the Sheffield United game was a real wake-up call for me as a Brighton fan, because we were awful. It's absolutely awful. In terms of not being able to create chances, not being able to make the most of having an extra player. It was just a dreadful game. And, I don't know what Lamptey would have done in that game if he'd played. Maybe he could have got a goal and then made things happen. But Brighton at the moment, there's no double game week coming up. The fixtures are turning sour. So to be honest, the Lamptey injuries come at quite a good time, and I'm quite happy to be getting rid of him this week.
Just a shame because he's just one of those.
I know, so much promise.
Yeah, exactly.
Just not him.
No. Okay, so we're going to look at our game weeks. We're going to look at the top 10K. We're going to look at some stats as always, but most of the show is going to be dedicated to the impending double game weeks and blanks and what we do with the chips and what I've chosen to do, having looked at and listened to a lot of the other shows, is present some scenarios and strategies that you use in each scenario. And I could be wrong with some of the suggestions I've put in there, so I'm going to talk through with you, because you haven't seen them yet. So we'll chat through them. And
no,
hopefully
blindside me.
Yeah, but hopefully they're scenarios which cover every player out there. I think I've got them all, and in that way, hopefully, we'll help a few people tonight. Certainly, might not be that they follow what we do, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. But talking of not following what we do, let's look at your team for the game week. Right, pretty much. The defence was something else. What was your net total in points in defence?
Oh my God, it's incredible, isn't it? I mean, to get 0 points for your defenders is from 5 defenders is an impressive. On like the PlayStation, they sometimes give you a trophy when like something really bad happens, like die 100 times in a row or something like that.
Yeah.
I kind of feel there should be a trophy for that, like trophy unlocked, not points from 5 defenders, because it's just absolutely ridiculous. I mean, James and Lamptey didn't play, so Mitchell also didn't even get a minute. So I mean, Ireland came on for -1. And then the only chance I've got of anything is Chilwell, who gets injured after a certain amount of time, and then Chelsea go on and keep the clean sheet. So both the players going into that game week are fine to play. All of a sudden, James is out, and then Chilwell's injured, and they get the clean sheet anyway. And I mean, we both lost out on that, but yeah, just really frustrating because I haven't got any points from James since I brought him in. He's a player who's looked really full of promise, loads of crosses, loads of shots. Been top of the threat like that we've seen, like just really, really good underlying numbers, and I just haven't benefited at all from it. And people who went for the likes of Diaz or Cancelo, or moved up to someone like Trent or Robertson, and there's loads of other defenders that have been doing well, and unfortunately he has done really badly. So
you got in on the wrong time on James, but the Chilwell injury was cruel as well. To go into the game week with 2 Chelsea defenders and get 1 point from them both, just pretty extraordinary.
You've got to laugh, haven't you?
You have. And then on top of that, I mean, I think Mahrez has been the villain, because obviously you got him in as the alternative to De Bruyne. I mean, I really expected him to play in this game week because he was rested in the previous match. And we said, didn't we, why isn't he coming on against West Brom? Why is he saving him? And then he doesn't start him at Southampton. Yeah. I don't really understand the logic, but
he's the only logic I've got is that he is really, really annoyed with him for missing that chance against United. And it's almost like a kind of punishment because he gets subbed. He gets subbed soon after that. He doesn't play at all in the home game against West Brom. The players who he brings in don't look any better than he's looked. Bearing in mind he's in he had the hat-trick against Burnley, had a really good performance against Fulham. Okay, then missed that chance against United, but none of them played particularly well in that game. Then misses West Brom entirely, and then he's benched again against Southampton. And then plays in the cup. So it's
there must be some logic. And was he thinking, well, I'm going to need to rest De Bruyne in the EFL Cup, so therefore, if I'm going to rest De Bruyne, I want Mahrez in that team. Maybe that was behind it. Because otherwise, as we said last week, we won't dwell on it again. Why didn't he come on against West Brom when they couldn't get a goal?
I know. That's the biggest worry, is that. You look at that West Brom game, they were desperate for someone to unlock West Brom, and it gets to 70 minutes and they don't choose to bring Mahrez on. And it's like all of the weeks where you think Mahrez is doing something a bit different. This is the thing. I know he's been a punt. Like, obviously people in the chat now are like, oh, Mahrez, all that. And everyone from the start said Mahrez was a bad pick. Fair enough, they were right. But what I sensed with him and why I went for him, as I've said on this, was that I sensed there was something a bit different with him. Like with the confidence he had from Pep, and with the way he was playing, and he seemed to actually have a role in the team and not just be a bit part player. And he was up until that miss against United, I think. Up until that, and then once he missed that, decent chance, it's like Pep's just gone, okay, right, you're back to where you were before. You're going to play limited minutes. I'm going to trust all these other players who haven't shown any real promise. Torres, you'll play a bit. Bernardo, you're back from nowhere despite not having played a single minute. So yeah, it's been really. I mean, to have no returns from Mahrez in like 4 weeks is really bad. And Grealish, who's the first player I sold from him, who obviously I love. We've been talking about him.
You said you were going to get him back, but you didn't, and then he delivered.
He gets 10 points. Yeah. So yeah, it's brutal. You try and be a bit different, and it kicks you.
So you just got the 6 and Martinez, but then elsewhere it was just Salah and Fernandes who returned. Calvert-Lewin got an assist, of course, but that was about it for you in a pretty poor game week. And it wasn't a poor game week, score relative to other game weeks. It was a decent score, but obviously a lot of managers did very well because, again, the heavy hitters delivered aside from Kane.
And it was defense. It was defense again. I mean, the City defenders, as we're going to see in your team in a second, coming through. The people who've held on to Robertson got points. There was points out there, but just not for me. It's fine. Yeah, we move on.
Well, we'll look at that team later. It will come back again, I'm afraid, so you'll have to look at it again.
I'm going to need some advice, Mark. You're going to have to start helping me out a bit, I think. Not all these Mahrez mind games.
Yeah, you can't blame me for that. You could try.
I do entirely.
And I did, Grealish. Oh, dear. My game week was better. 96, good return. I got my two transfers were Walker out for Diaz and McCarthy to Martinez. I only gained 4 points from that, but it was okay. My point was Diaz just seems more nailed than the fullbacks, and of course I've got another problem now because Cancelo and Diaz both played in the cup game in midweek at Arsenal. I didn't expect that, so more on that later. Chilwell and James were my other 2 defenders, so I did start with 4 at the back, and obviously I lost James to an injury and then lost Chilwell as well. So actually I'm a bit peeved that I didn't do even better because I've had Cancelo, Diaz, or 2 City defenders and 2 Chelsea defenders for 3 or 4 weeks. Not once have I managed to get all 4 out, I don't think. Or when I have, they haven't returned. And I thought this was the week, and it was. They both kept clean sheets, and I missed it because of the James injury and the Chilwell injury. So, if anything, I'm a bit pissed off about that. But elsewhere, I did well. So I can't.
Same as me.
I can't be cross because Grealish did well for me. De Bruyne only got an assist, but it's still something. And obviously Fernandes captain came in for us all. And Salah somehow off the bench, 16 points, as we've said. So I got 96. I went up again, a decent rank gain. So I'm pleased with it, but it could have been more. And it had James and Chilwell not got stricken down. And if we look great with the good now, the league table.
Well, just quickly, because you sent me an email. You sent me an email earlier about lessons for BlackBox.
Yeah,
obviously it would be a good time for us to talk about it because I mean a few weeks ago we were bang on, literally. I think we're both on around a million.
Well, this is it.
And it's really interesting how divergent our paths have gone. But we're going to dedicate some time to it, I think, on the next.
Yeah, episode, I mean, looking at the great and the good league now, you're on 789. I'm on 870. So the gap is 81 points. Now, only about 4 or 5 weeks ago, it was 5 or 6 points, and I was. You actually went ahead of me when
I know
on a Saturday. So you were above me on a Saturday, and then I went back above you on the Sunday. So it was that close that we were tit for tat. And then in the last 4 or 5 game weeks, it's just we've gone off on separate paths, and we have got to look at that. And we've got to go back and figure out what went wrong there, because obviously that's the purpose of the show. So I think what I said is that what would be a good idea is when we have a quieter game week than this, obviously with all the chips and the condensed fixtures, it's difficult to cover it over Christmas. But when we get into January, I think we'll have an FA Cup weekend. We'll look at it then, and we'll look back and see whether or not there was a reason for the. It'd
be good to talk about it because there's some decisions which I think were quite poor, but then other things that have happened I just feel are just genuinely bad luck.
Bad beats. And you're going to talk about bad beats.
Bad beats.
Okay.
Yeah, it's one of those ones, isn't it? Like you do the similar types of moves and they come off, and then you soar ahead. But I guess it's that question of how much have I tried to force things? How much have I tried to, pick players? Mahrez keeps coming back, but that weren't necessarily good picks, and I should have, gone a bit safer. But there's definitely things we can talk about anyway. We'll cover it.
And the fact, should you have benched Grealish rather than sell him, and that kind of thing. I guess that's what we're going to look at. So we'll dissect it in detail when things quieten down in January. But at the moment, obviously, we've got this stream to discuss the double game weeks, and we've got the wildcard stream coming up Sunday, and then we'll get a few more in. But then when we get to January, it'll quieten down. We'll look back at this period and see what happened. But by then, you might have caught up with me. It might be that I'm about to go on a bad run as well. So as it stands,
I've got a plan.
I've
got a plan.
But you need my advice for that plan, do you? That's worrying.
I just need you to give it the old stamp of approval, which you definitely will, because it involves a -8.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I was looking at a -4 or -8 as well this week. So I think this is, when you've got double game weeks coming up and you know there are blanks coming up, you can afford to consider hits. So let's see when we get there what I think of that. Just looking at the Great and the Good League, it's still Fabio Borges and FPL General way out in front. I've got a lot to do to catch them. Magnus Carlsen in third on 908 points. So he's 38 points ahead of me, but he has played his wild card, as has Neil. So those two above me, immediately above me, although there's a gap, 20 and 30 odd points, they don't have a wild card to play. So I've got to hope that I can catch them with the wild card. Let's see.
When are we doing that, Mark?
Well, we're doing that ahead of game week 16 because I have to. I've got no choice. Otherwise, I lose it.
Sunday night.
You'll join us for a feed and we will go through. Yeah.
Sub, so you get the little notification.
Yeah, I don't know what time it'll be.
Mark's on the whiskey.
Yeah, it could be.
And he's playing his wild card.
Could be late. Could be 11. Let's see. We did it about midnight last time. It could be another one of those, but we'll see. Myself and Tom Freeman been locked in a battle. I got the better of him. He had another bad week. He has had a yo-yo of a season. He either has incredible game weeks, pushing 100 points, or he has really bad ones. He is going up and down like a yo-yo, and so I'm ahead of him again, but no doubt he'll have another blinding game week to come and he'll catch that back up. So, but you're down there, and Late Riser is catching you. You've got to be careful here. We don't want you bottom of the Great and the Good, do we? And Late Riser, to his credit, has climbed 713,000 places with an 88-point score, and you had a climb of 3,524. So I don't want to bang on about it, but actually you've got to pep your ideas up, haven't you? Come on.
Oh, I know. I mean, a rank rise of 3,000 when you're 1.5 million in the world, it's pathetic. I mean, there's the double game week to come. There's the blank game week to come. The last few weeks, this week kind of wasn't a week I was really expecting to soar because everyone was Bruno captain. It was kind of the only people who really fell, as I talked about the Scoutcast yesterday, were the Kane captainers, which was really unlucky because I thought he was a really good captaincy option against Leicester. Yeah, and Leicester they were brilliant. They're so hard to predict. They're absolutely awful against a team like Fulham at home. And then they go away at a team like Spurs and they're absolutely amazing.
It's funny, isn't it? They seem to be very efficient and Rodgers gets his tactics right against those stronger teams. But we did say Ndidi against Kane would be the obvious kind of method of shutting down Kane, and that's exactly what happened. And they got all Brighton on Son as well. Yep. So he had a plan and it worked. And to be fair, if you've got a player as good as Ndidi, you can see he would be able to shut down Kane. There aren't many as good as Ndidi in the Premier League in that position. So you can see what Rodgers come up with. I
don't want to keep badgering on about it, but like that to me is the problem with Spurs, is that creativity comes from Kane. He's such an integral part of everything they do. And if you've got a player in your team like Ndidi who can just shut him down, they lose such a huge part of what they're capable of doing. And they executed it perfectly. They just stifled Kane, stifled Tottenham. And I think it's the reason why I can't consider Spurs as a title contender, because they just don't have that way of unlocking teams when Kane isn't either at his best or is being marked like he was in that game.
Yeah, and to be fair though, we've said this week after week, it's obvious what Kane and Son are up to. It's obvious what their game plan is, and no one's been able to stop it until we get to Leicester, and they do. Yeah. And is it because other managers don't have the weaponry to shut it down, and Rodgers did, or is it because managers are a bit naive? It's probably it's interesting. The latter.
I guess it's probably a bit of both. I mean, the thing is, most teams don't have a player like Ndidi. I mean, you look at Ndidi and Kante, and Idrissa Gana Gueye when he was at Everton, he was the same. He was just these players who were just on you constantly. They don't give you, like Park Ji-sung at United when he was like man marking people. Like you just can't even breathe because they're just constantly there. You've got a player like that in your team, it just unlocks so much else from the rest of the side. And you look at City and you look at Liverpool and you look at other top sides, they don't really have a player like that. And they're still effective because they play in a different way. Yeah. But it's very frustrating to play against a team who has that one player whose sole job is literally just to shut down your main man.
Yeah, well, two things here. One, you say Ndidi and I say Ndidi. You saying Ndidi means you can't use the pun yes indeedy, so that's why I say it like that. Secondly, and more importantly, or maybe not, you might win your bet on the Spurs.
Oh well, I wasn't gonna mention this for a while, but this is very exciting. So for anyone who doesn't know, Mark and I was very, very drunk. I don't know if you were at the time.
I remember it vaguely, yeah.
Yeah, it was when Spurs were about to embark on their very difficult run. I think they had City. It was just before they played their City game. And I said there's no way that Spurs will be in the top 4 come the end of their difficult run, which ends in the beginning of Gameweek 16.
See, this is where it's a blur because Joe is disputing when you said that difficult run ends.
Well, I got the video. I've got a link to the video
and
a
video
timestamp.
Evidence. I can't argue with that.
Video evidence. It goes up to the end of the Wolves game. Right. So I said they won't be in the top 4 after the Wolves game. Right. You said they would be. It's looked awful for ages because Spurs have just kept winning and kept getting points and beating teams. But their last 2 results have been really poor, and now they're actually outside of the top 4. So if Spurs aren't in the top 4 come the end of
what did I say I do? Is it humiliating or
it's £20 charity.
Oh, okay, that's fine. That's pretty noble.
Yeah, so that's nice.
Yeah.
I didn't say charity of my choice.
I didn't say that I would get naked on the feed or anything like that.
You also, well, we can add that in if you want.
No, there's video evidence. I'm sure.
Why are you always trying to get us naked on these streams, Mark?
That's the whole ruse for the show. Basically, I've only come back to do FPL stuff that didn't do in his feed to get you on camera naked. Together, this is going in the dark way. It's going in the bad way. We'll see. So officially, I will lose that bet if they don't get a result at Wolves and they drop out. Yeah, and they're out the top 4 already. Yeah. Right, okay. See, I'm kind of torn now because I don't really want them to do well at Wolves because I haven't got Son or Kane. So
yeah. It's interesting. Because it was Granville, not Joe. Granville has been on my case every week. Yeah. He's been posting a post every week. Have you paid out yet, Az? Have you paid out yet, Az? I disagree with everything you say, Az.
He's like a terror. He's like that. He's on you all the time.
I'm so happy that it's now reached this point. Even if I lose now, it's like it took you closer than you thought it would. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm surprised. To be fair, I'm very surprised that. The Leicester game in particular, I really did. I mean, you nearly talked me into a Kane captaincy. I really was going to think about taking it. I was basically going to go, right, I'm going to get De Bruyne out and get, who was it I was looking at? I think I was looking at Lookman and then getting Brewster to Kane. So I was thinking, well, Lookman and Kane is better than Brewster and De Bruyne. As it turned out, De Bruyne didn't do stellar at Southampton, but he did better than Kane. So...
God, imagine if you'd done that.
I was close.
20 points down or something. 25 points down, probably.
Why would I be 20 points down? Why? No.
Well, you'd have taken De Bruyne out, so 5 lost, and then you wouldn't have captained Fernandes.
No. Yeah. Had I gotten through the captaincy, I would have.
That's what I mean.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I guess I would have captained Kane as well. I guess that was the point of doing it. You put that thought into my head, and I was toying with it, and I didn't go through with it luckily because I think that part of it is. On the screen at the moment, I've taken 24 points in hits and I'm kind of resisting doing any more now. But having said that, you're on 20. You've caught me up here almost on the hits count in the Great and the Good League. And you're considering a -8 now. You'll go above me.
I know. Well, it's nice because Greyhead always has me as like king of the hits. So
does he? Right.
Yeah. So yeah, I think my picture in the Great and the Good, my banner on Twitter is me holding a black box with -4 coming out.
Oh, really? So. I hadn't realised that. Okay, fine. Yes.
I think I took the most. I think I took the most last year.
So I'm a pretender to your crown, and so you're going to try and nab it back off me. Fair enough. Greyhead's article on Fantasy Football Scout, that is based on the Great and the Good League that you're seeing now in the show. Be sure to check that out because it's always entertaining, and that tracks how Az and I are doing. Although Az would probably do without having that tracked at the moment.
Yes, sure. Could be even worse if Late Riser catches me up.
Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, Late Riser's done really well to close the gap to what it is now, which is 26 points. Not that much, yeah. Okay, and he's taking risks as well. He is he's showing the form and the bravery to catch you up. So let's watch this space. Let's look at the top 10k, which seems quite a way away. The template this week we're just looking at, and not too much movement, is there really? I think just one in defence. Robertson's come in. Is that about right?
Yeah, not much at all. I think Martinez is now the most owned goalkeeper, which isn't surprising because they're just great, aren't they?
Yeah,
Like
even I got on
kind of
board.
just yeah, I don't blame you. You're expecting every week. I think Martinez is he was a good decision I made on the wild card. Was switching over to him. He's been delivering sort of each week. But yeah, the defense is interesting because Robertson's in, so that is about it. But obviously James and Chilwell are both in there. And this, I don't want to say it's the injury we've been waiting for because that's kind of a bit dark. But
Macabre, isn't it? That but...
yeah, it does feel like this season's been a bit strange because we haven't seen injuries to like quite highly owned players. And I think what people decide to do with Chilwell, who is massively owned, 55% in the top 10k, is going to be quite interesting because his injury doesn't look like it's going to be like months. It's going to be a few weeks, but obviously those few weeks come at a time when we've got quick game weeks turning around. And the attractive option is moving him up to a Trent or Robertson, who've got the double game week and good matches. So I would expect quite a few people to be selling him this week. And the same with James. You can move him quite easily to someone like Cancelo or Diaz, or down to someone like Stones or Kufau. Like there's lots of options around. So I don't think, I think there's going to be a lot of people moving them on. So yeah, I think this template's going to be shaken up a bit. Basically,
yeah, I think and you're actually right. It's often in a season we see a player like De Bruyne or Aguero who are prone to injury a bit, I guess. De Bruyne not so much, but he has some small periods out often in a season. And that really does shake the template up. But so far this season, we've had Rodriguez, who was in the template, and that's changed it a bit. But I guess he was kind of a major player, but it's hard to imagine that now when we look back. But it's been pretty consistent. The heavy hitters have stayed fit. Players like Grealish, who seem indestructible, Calvert-Lewin, who seems indestructible. These players are playing every game. Bamford, who is now in the template, looks like he's playing every game. It'd be interesting to see if he gets a rest anytime soon over Christmas. So you're absolutely right. There's been nothing injury-wise that has shaken up the template as yet. This is the closest we've had, as in the Chilwell one, of a highly owned player who's at a decent price. So people could go up to the Liverpool defenders, or they could go down and spread the money. So yeah, we'll see what happens with that because it is interesting.
I think as well, like not trying to like brag, but like as people who have played fantasy football for a long time, when an injury to a highly owned player happens, that's when you kind of think to yourself, well, this is where I can start climbing the ranks. So this is where I can get in a player who's got the fixtures, he's got the stats. You can use your kind of experience to know who to go for. Whereas people who don't really know what they're doing might just go for the kind of like for like option who's got rubbish fixtures or isn't showing much. You know what I mean? Like it's quite obvious to get in Calvert-Lewin when he's scoring every week. But then what do you do when you need a 7.5 million striker who isn't Calvert-Lewin? Who do you go to? So it's a time when it could potentially be a good thing for me to move Chilwell on. Equally though, I might want him back in a few weeks, so it's hard to call.
You go to Mopay, don't you? That's what you do.
And Mahrez, they're the key.
Yeah. But yeah, no, you are right. And I think when it happens mid-season, it happens at a point where all the data is there. And you think that, after this many game weeks, the experienced FPL managers have that advantage because they should be able to use that money and the shake-up to their advantage. You're absolutely right. And shall we say it again? The more casual player, perhaps, is a bit more exposed to that. But we'll see. We'll see what happens with this. It'd be interesting to see how the template looks in a couple of weeks, because we presume that Chilwell and James are gonna drop out gradually as we go. Okay, let's look at some data as we often do. Just check in with this. And talking to the Chelsea defence, they are still on top of the overall defensive ratings that we use. We rate these by minutes per expected goals conceded, and they're way out in front on 116.1 minutes. Then it's City, who are closing as the next best defence on 97.2. And interestingly, when you take penalties out of the equation, City are the best defence on 131.8 minutes on minutes per XG non-penalty. So those two, clearly the best two defences. They're the two that I've invested in. And as I said to you, it's been frustrating because I haven't been able to get a full stack of City and Chelsea defenders out there gaining me points. What's interesting, and what we'll talk about over the case of the next two screens, is Villa. Villa's defence is back up there, having had a really bad time of it and having wavered. they're now ranked third, and in fact, over the last 4 game weeks, they're top. Minutes per expected goal conceded 187.5, and that's ahead of both City and Chelsea. So Villa's fixtures have been strong, and they've made the most of that, and they've really jumped up the defensive rankings. So suddenly, I mean, I think when we did This Much We Know, we said the Villa defence was the one that was going to be the kind of value, and then it wavered a bit, and we lost confidence. And I was happy I didn't have Martinez, but now, this is looking like the Villa defence is back on track again.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and it's interesting because they haven't had Concert as well.
Oh, your mic has gone back to you're using the other mic. You're using your headphone mic, not your main mic there. Yet again, technical difficulties. You need to change your setting in Zoom, I expect. That'll be it. Bear with us, listener. Right, can you speak now?
Still set to my...
That's right, it's working now. It's fine.
Is it?
Yeah.
Honestly, and my earphones have just gone as well. I don't know what is going on with my tech today.
You can hear me. Is that fine?
I can hear you fine, yeah, because
okay.
I've gone on the headset, but obviously switched over from the mic.
Anyway, it's fine. It's fine. Anyway, I was saying that the Villa defence is back on track now. I was just saying that it's interesting they've done it without Concert, because he's been such a mainstay of their team, and he's been injured for the last 2 weeks, and they've had 2 clean sheets, I think, without him. So fair play to them. Target's looking good, still attacking, cash as well. I mean, it's amazing, isn't it, what Dean Smith has done there, because last season they were awful for so much of the season, so reliant on Grealish, and this year, I mean, they are obviously still, Grealish is still their talisman and their best player, but they've got players in other areas who are doing well for them as well. Like Watkins hasn't scored in ages, but he's still looking lively and leading the line well. Watkins is a real villain on FPL Twitter as well. Everyone kind of, I'm glad I own him, because he's been very frustrating. I mean, Bamford's bad enough watching him miss chances, but Watkins has missed chances, and he's really has been turned upside down by VAR decisions, and he's lost penalties, and it's been a really rough ride for Watkins owners. So that he has been a one Villa player who hasn't really treated FPL managers well. But elsewhere, and the thing is, they haven't had Barkley in this run either, and we thought that they would struggle without Barkley, and they kind of have. Grealish has got by; he's done well without him. But it hasn't affected the defence, and while adding Barkley, he's made signings that we expected to spruce up their attacking options, Traore and Barkley, in particular Watkins as well. But I didn't expect the defence to make this kind of improvement in the second season.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about. One of the reasons why I decided to sell Grealish for Mahrez was to take the chance that the kind of the stats we had and the kind of general feeling we both had was that Grealish would perform a lot better with Barkley in the team. Yeah. And when Barkley got injured and Villa had the blank, that's when I thought, okay, maybe this is a good chance to take him out. And, he had the Wolves game, got no points, had the Burnley game, got no points, and actually had the West Brom game, played 80 minutes, not really playing quite deep, still playing well, but not really looking amazingly threatening, even though West Brom had 10 men. And then it was in the last kind of 8-9 minutes when West Brom started to push up and go for it a bit more. That's when he started to get further forward, and that's when he got the 2 assists. So again, like it's frustrating, because I really rate Grealish. I think he's absolutely class, and it was a real shame to get rid of him. But I kind of identified that this might happen, and it kind of has happened for like 260 minutes that I kind of thought. But it's those last 10 minutes he gets 10 points, and Mahrez gets absolutely nothing. So it's just another one where it's a bit frustrating.
What I will say is I've only watched one game, and I think it was Leicester away, and even in that game he played well, where I don't think I'm on the brink of points with Grealish. Like, he's one player this year that I've had. Every game I've seen, I'm like, well, he's going to get me points here, because he's playing so well, and everything's coming through him, and every good opportunity is via him in some way, either directly or indirectly. And now he's on pens as well. I guess the case is strong. Although he seems to be doing everything I think he's like gone. He so doesn't want to take a penalty that he convinced Dean Smith to play El Ghazi so that he doesn't have to take a penalty.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
But it's going to be interesting now, because obviously Barkley's back. So I presume that El Ghazi is going to make way, or Traore will make way. It'd be interesting to see what happens there. But as we'll see later, El Ghazi's stats recently have been extraordinary. So maybe it won't be him. But yeah, I mean, Grealish is a player that always, even when he doesn't return, you always think, oh, he was unlucky there. He really was integral to everything.
And that's the thing. Like at the end of it all, you want players in your team who you watch and you think this guy is just magic. And Mahrez is the opposite of that. He's a player who in the past has he is capable of doing absolutely extraordinary things. He's an absolutely brilliant player, but it's just not. It's not every match. You don't watch him.
No.
Sometimes you watch him and he's so like far out on the right. He's just not even getting into the game at all. At least with Grealish, he's going to be the one orchestrating everything. So it was a mistake in hindsight. But if I'd said to you after that hat-trick against Burnley, do you think Mahrez is going to get a blank in the next 4 games? I don't know if you would have thought that. He looked, the fixtures City had, Fulham, West Brom, Southampton, United, they were just really good games. And the difference between them has been punishing, but just like everything else has been this season. Anyway, that's the last time I mentioned Mahrez.
You've been losing sleep about Mahrez, haven't you? You got him on the dartboard permanently and throwing darts at him. What I want to pick out from this defensive data is West Brom, because effectively, West Brom at the bottom there, no improvement as yet. Allardyce has only had 1 game, so we don't expect it, but they're bottom over the last 4 too. But also Leeds, the other promoted team. Look at the chances, the big chances conceded over the last 4 matches. I've got Ayling still. A lot of people have got Dallas, and Dallas has done well because he's got 2 goals and attacking and something. He's got an assist and a goal recently. But they are becoming to look like a bit of a liability defensively, aren't they? When you look at that data, minutes per big chance conceded, 18.9. That is 10 times worse than Villa, City. At the moment, the number of big chances they're shipping is quite extraordinary, and they're bottom for minutes per chance as well. So it's not just big chances; it's quality. Obviously in the Man United game they got exposed and got thrashed, and maybe that has skewed the data. It obviously has, but even so, Ayling, I'm looking at game. Definitely while he's at centre back, he's not really a player I want to play, even at home to Burnley this week. And long term with my wild card, even though Leeds have got good fixtures and they got a double, I don't know if I want to back the defence. What's your thoughts on them now?
Oh, I know. Sorry, might be my dog barking. Door's just gone. I don't know who it is. A bit late for someone to be at the door. But yeah, it's at what point do you just kind of say that Leeds are naive? Like they're the most exciting team to watch in the league, like by far. Love watching them play. The United game was one of the best games I've seen. The City game was one of the best games I've seen earlier in the season. That 1-1 draw, which could have been like 6-6, 7-7. Who knows? Really barking. Can you hear him loudly?
Yeah. Was that an Amazon delivery at this time of night? What's going on?
Yeah, I think so. I don't really know what it is. It's going mad, anyway. So technical problems, dogs had the works.
We have it all tonight.
Yeah. But it's like any team that plays Leeds, you think are probably going to get something, because Ayling isn't a centre back, and I was on the Scoutcast yesterday talking to Seb, and Seb's got quite strong views about Leeds and how they're playing and stuff. And
Seb is a Leeds fan, right?
He's a Leeds fan, exactly. And it's Ayling's a funny one, because Ayling, you kind of forget that Ayling is playing as a makeshift centre back. It's like if I'm trying to think of an example, like if Wan-Bissaka just started playing at centre back, like obviously it's going to have problems because your first choice defensive partnership isn't playing. So Koch isn't there. Who was their replacement for Ben White? So yeah, it's tricky. But the thing is, I still back them to score.
Yeah,
that's the main thing.
Yeah, so Dallas could still be worth holding on to, I guess, and Alioski as well, because he's getting forward. But Aiden at the moment, he needs to be back at fullback if I'm going to keep him. But obviously in the wildcard, he's probably going to go. And I don't, even though they've got the double game week, I don't think I'll be looking at Leeds defenders. Dallas maybe, because he could.
Dallas is top of the threat for defenders.
Yeah.
And I was talking about this yesterday. Like, I think if you've got a -4 to, if you're thinking about -4, I think you could do a lot worse than an Ayling to Dallas -4. Because I just
sideways,
I just see,
though, isn't it?
It's sideways, but Dallas is going to outscore Ayling by 4 points from now until the end of the double game week. I'd say comfortably, especially if Koch doesn't come back. So if you're looking at going into that double game week with a Leeds defender, you want Dallas. And if you've got other fires to put out in your team, like I have, with all these mess of defensive injuries I've got, it almost feels like that kind of move is worth it. It's a tricky one. It can pay off. I do think if you're going to be, I mean, Leeds have got some really good games. They've got Burnley at home, then West Brom, then they've got a tricky one, I think, and then they've got the blank, and then they've got the double, something like that. But yeah, Eiling to Dallas for a -4 is something I'm considering.
Well, we'll have a quick look at what Leeds have got. Let's have a look at this. They've got Burnley, West Brom, Spurs away, then the blank, then the double, Brighton and Southampton, then Newcastle away. So very good fixtures, other than the Spurs and the blank, obviously. So it's it's difficult because you want to look at the value that they've offered in defence, but it's getting to the point now where we have to consider that we're not going to get clean sheets out of them, and they're going to lose us points like Aileen did this week. It's very difficult.
Yeah, I know, and that's the thing. You had Dallas, they're conceding all those goals United, and you're still coming away with 5 points. I mean, it's a great return.
It is. It is in that game. And attacking data mentioned Villa again. Look at where they stand over the season now. Minutes per expected goal. This is sorted by it. Liverpool out on top, 46.3, and Villa second now on 52.5. So they've gone above Leeds. So. Villa third in the defensive ratings based on minutes per XG conceded, and second in the attacking ratings based on minutes per XG attacking. So it's what an extraordinary season they're having. Yeah. And like you say, I mean, they've had a boost from the fixture list, but and that might turn now. But Barkley's coming back to help them in this respect when it comes to the attack. And again, what I point out here is look how far away West Brom are from the rest of the pack. I mean, minutes per big chance, 210 minutes per big chance, and they create a chance every 10.2 minutes, which is second only to Sheffield United down there. If you want a clean sheet, you just back any team against West Bromwich Albion at the moment. And I think it's fair to say Sam Allardyce's appointment isn't going to make any difference to that, is it? I mean, he's going to improve defensively, but has he got any chance of making their attack any stronger?
No, because they don't have the players to do it. I mean, I like West Brom. I lived in Birmingham for 5 years. I've always liked West Brom. Gemma Harrison on Twitter as well is someone I really admire, and I've followed her story for years, and that's helped massively. And it's a shame, but I just can't see where the quality is going to come from, where the goals are going to come from, where the clean sheets are going to come from. I mean, when you buy like Ivanovic, and Ivanovic is a fantasy football legend, of course, but you're sticking him, 36, 37, you're sticking him as first choice, like centre back. He didn't play, I don't think, against Villa, but it still reeks a bit of desperation. They've now got Livermore out of this game after a ridiculous
shocking
tackle.
It was funny because he did exactly the same kind of challenge on Ribeiro for Forest last season in a game that they drew with us, and Livermore set up the equaliser in the last minute, and he should have been sent off because he did exactly the same. Where he went in for a challenge, extended his leg, and then thrust through to inflict damage on the defender. He got away with it because there's no VAR in the Championship, obviously. But he did exactly the same on Grealish. But he did it right in front of the benches. And even Sammy Lee, West Brom's assistant, was like, he didn't know what to do. He was like, well, I can't really defend that as his manager. And how does he expect to get away with that with VAR and in front of the benches? It was absolutely crazy. And you could have predicted, couldn't we? We said, well, Livermore is going to get hold of Grealish. And he did exactly that.
Yeah, because Allardyce has probably said to him, get a hold of Grealish, and then he's done that. Well, not like that.
In a subtle way.
Come on, but yeah, I mean, it's an absolutely ridiculous tackle. And I've been a huge, naysayer of VAR. There's so many parts of it that I hate, but when you see a tackle like that the ref doesn't fully appreciate what's happened, that's when VAR is so useful, because that was just so obviously a red card. Like if he'd stayed on the pitch after that, it would have been an absolute disgrace. So that's when VAR is useful. You kind of got to praise it when it gets it right. But he misses the game against Liverpool next. I mean, how the hell are West Brom going to contain?
He's their
Liverpool?
Captain as well. It's not just any old player. He's meant to be their leader.
I mean, they kept City, to a 1-1. But I mean, Liverpool and Everton, the only two clubs with fans in the stadium now after all the new tier things. So Liverpool are going to have fans in the stadium. Everton are away, so I think Liverpool the only team this week that are going to have fans in the stadium.
Right.
Liverpool are going to murder them.
Well,
I think.
I just don't know what Allardyce can do with them, because I mean, look at this table here. They're bottom over the season attacking wise, and even the last 4 game weeks. So even if you look at a small sample, they're way bottom. They've created one big chance in 4 matches. One big chance in 4 matches. I mean, that's just crazy. I mean, Sheffield United have only created 2. But
lead me
dreadful.
on to my, just a little sneak preview of what my -8 involves.
Yeah, I know.
Because I might be doubling up on the Liverpool defence this week.
Well, this is it. I think you can take a hit on Liverpool on the basis that unless West Brom do something on set pieces, unless Sam's had a chance to sort set pieces out, I can't see West Brom scoring.
I mean, bearing in mind that none of my defenders are playing, taking 4-point hits to remove them for all defenders who, if West Brom score, it will probably be like the Christmas miracle that we've all wanted for 2020. It seems a fairly safe move. So
no, well, if the data supports it, there's nothing to suggest otherwise. Quick look at players. Highlighted the heavy hitters in this table. The reason being is they're getting clustered together, getting closer and closer. The difference between them in terms of minutes per expected goal involvement, non-penalty, is minimal now. You've got Vardy out 165.1 minutes, and then De Bruyne, Kane, Salah and Bruno all very, very close. Bruno the bottom on 179.9. Apart from Son is struggling as a result of Mourinho's tactics. He's out on 202 minutes, 0.8. So the heavy hitters, there's very little to choose between them over the season at the moment. But just some names that are creeping up there. I mean, Grealish is managing to stay right at the top. He's been pretty consistent. He's not slid down at all. But gradually the heavy hitters are dropping down the list there. And if we go to the more recent data, so this is based on the last 4 matches, we've got De Bruyne up there, who's probably the best performer in heavy hitter in terms of goal involvement at the moment. So he's got an expected goal involvement of 139 minutes, ahead of Vardy on 147.3, the next best. And then you look at Bruno and Son and Kane, and they're out of the top 30. Son and Kane down on 286 and 305 minutes. So Spurs' tactics at the moment is slowing the rate of their goal involvements down as we expected. But some names in here that I've highlighted for the double game weeks: Chris Wood, El Ghazi and Rafinha. Now these are players that are all around 6 million or less, and all
El Ghazi hasn't got a double.
No, El Ghazi hasn't, but he's a good player to be getting in this period to cover the blanks, and he's a player that if you want to free up some cash,
strategy,
depending on what you want to do. So it's a player. When you look at the strategies later, you can see that a Villa player other than Grealish, El Ghazi, could be an option. Chris Wood, though, I've seen a lot of people talk about him because Burnley's fixtures are in focus because they've got kind run up to the double game week as well. Do you think these players can represent value over this period?
I mean, there's one there that I like, which is Rafinha, who, another spoiler, he's someone I'm strongly considering bringing in this week as well, just because of how attacking Leeds are. And, you look at his minutes per chance. I mean, to be fair, you look at El Ghazi with 11.5 minutes per chance.
Crazy, yeah.
Which is the best, I think, of all the players. Is it the best of all players?
In the last 4 game weeks, yeah.
In the last 4 game weeks, that is amazing. But yeah, Rafinha there with 25.7, which is only just, you look at Salah with 24.8. And Rafinha's been unlucky, I think. He's hit the post a couple of times, 2 assists against United, which is good. He's down to 5.4, which, is a bargain. You run the risk with, doubling up with him and Bamford. They're still a newly promoted team. We still wonder a bit how they're going to get on. But Burnley at home next. They're going to see a lot of the ball against Burnley. You'd expect Leeds to dominate that game and create chances. And then West Brom, who knows what's going to happen in that game. And then they've got the double to come. So I don't think the double up with Rafinha and Bamford is a bad move at this stage. So he's someone I like the look of. Chris Wood, I can't get excited about a Burnley striker. I'm sorry. I just think there's better options. I'm more excited about Bamford. I'm more excited about Adams.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's funny.
I like Chris Wood.
He always has his spell every season where he
I do like him, but Burnley just don't. I just don't ever back Burnley to score more than 1 goal a game, and I'd rather have a striker for a team who can get more.
Yeah, no, it's fair enough. Okay, well, let's start talking about double game weeks then. Let's look at, there's a fella called Ben Crellin, you may have heard of him, who does bits and pieces around fixtures.
He dabbles, doesn't he?
He does, that's the word I like to use for him. So yeah, he's the account to follow, at Ben Crellin on Twitter. This guy will update you on the facts, but also some of his theories as well, and these theories are often even more interesting than the facts because he goes into a lot of detail about what could happen, and I like that. I like a bit of speculation. But this week we got a bit of extra news that we didn't expect, and as Ben says here in his first tweet, this is unexpected. The EFL Cup final has been moved from game week 26 to 33, and as Ben quite rightly says, this means game week 26 is likely to be a bigger double game week than we expected, and game week 33 will probably be a small blank game week. He reckons 2 blank fixtures. So what this means in his next tweet, in the summary, he goes through this. So we've got a blank game week 18, which we know about. We know that 5 teams or 5 fixtures have moved to game week 19 to create a double game week there. But we now know that double game week 26 could be bigger, in that the quarterfinals of the FA Cup will take place in game week 29. And we now expect those to move forward to game week 26. So the fixtures that will drop out of 29, Ben is expecting to drop into game week 26 to make that a big double game week. And there's also a chance that the game week 1 fixtures that were postponed, so there were 3 fixtures I think we're behind on, could drop into that as well. But there's more complication there because there's a chance that one of those, which is Burnley Man United, could even make its way into game week 18 or 17 still. So the variables here, this is what I've been trying to get my head around.
My mind is melted.
So there's a chance that one of those, Burnley versus Man United, will drop into 18 or 17, depending on the EFL Cup results, which have been going on tonight. And I don't know the scores, so I don't know.
Essentially, what you're saying for anyone who isn't like really into this kind of stuff is that United have a game that needs to be put somewhere because they missed the game week 1, and the most logical place for them to put that is either in game week 18, which is the blank, or game week 17, which would then make that game week a double game week. So when you're thinking of your transfers, just bear in mind, if you're shipping out all United players because you think, oh, well, they've got, a blank coming and then the double, they might actually end up being the most useful players to bring in because they could either have 2 doubles or they could have no blank and then a double, and they'd be the only team to have that.
Yeah, so keep and peel for the outcome of that, because that could still change the picture of game week 17 and 18. But also, game week 26 now is a big double game week. So that becomes another option for the bench boost, which means that, we can play our second wildcard in game week 25 or a bit earlier if you want to, and then bench boost in 26. And obviously that's quite important because we're considering now, or some of us will be considering whether the bench boost in game week 19. I'm certainly going to do it, and we're going to look at some of the strategies in a moment. I think, are you considering it at the moment, the bench boost in game week 19, or is this news kind of changed your mind on it?
I'm not. The news isn't really changing my mind. To be fair, it's my plan has always been free hit in 18, and triple captain in 19. I think that the two fixtures for Salah are so good in that week that he's the person I want to triple captain. You might end up with better fixtures down the line, you might not, but Salah with 2 home games against, is it United and who's the other one? United and...
Well, can I have a look? Hold on, let's bring it up.
Yeah, please do. Did you know this? It's United and Burnley at home.
Yes.
Like for Salah captain, that is pretty nice. So I probably could build my team up to a bench boost, but I think like you're going to do, I think bench boost is most powerful when it's combined with a wildcard. So if we've got news there's going to be another wildcard coming down the line in 26,
a double game,
a double game, sorry, then that's when I want to be playing the wildcard around that time, maximise my players and get the bench boost out with a full squad of double game weekers. So yeah, the plan stays at the moment. It's build my team up to get a really strong 11 out for 19. Probably Son will be my only single game week player because he's got Sheffield United. The rest will be double game weekers. Triple captain Salah and hope for the best.
Okay, well, I'm going to come back to the bench boost and whether it should be played in 19 or 26 in a bit, because there are some things to consider about the 26 scenario. But let's look at some of the strategies that we're going through at the moment. So this is these two here are scenarios with the wildcard. So I currently apply to the top one. So I've got a wildcard and free hit available. So this is my strategy. I'm going to wildcard in game week ahead of game week 16, obviously for game week, because you have to. That's important to stress, that you've got to play it between game week 15 and 16, otherwise it's gone. So if you still got it now, I don't think you can carry it on beyond the deadline for game week 16. You can't. You've got to use it before that deadline. So that means that you've got to use it Sunday night, get it done Sunday night, ready for the next day, which is why we're streaming on that night. And then so then basically that wildcard's going to be aimed at double game week assets. It's going to be purely targeting double game week players. Now, what I've said here is I'm going to include Spurs cover for game week 16 and 17. And that's important when we look at the fixtures, and we'll look at those in a moment, because I think Spurs' fixtures in the lead up to the double game week are very, very strong. And this is one thing you've got to consider. Don't just obsess about the double game weeks. Look at the fixtures before and after that, because you've obviously got to have a team that is rolling into the double game week and coming out of it. And we're going to look at the fixtures around that, what it means in a bit. I'm going to free hit in 18. And the reason why I am going to free hit in 18, and I've listened to a lot of people this week saying, well, the free hit, is it worth it? I think because I've got the wild card, I am driven to bench boost, because to maximise the wild card now, I've got to bench boost. Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And if I'm going to make the most of the bench boost, I need to be just single-minded and think about double game week assets. If I'm trying to create a balance between getting some players in my team for the blanks in game week 18 and also trying to cover the doubles in game week 19, I'm not going to maximise the bench boost, or I'm unlikely to, right? So I've got to free hit to free that up. Now that's my situation, because I've got the wild card and I think I need to use it to its maximum potential. And then ahead of game week, or for the game week 19, I'll use my free transfer then, because I'll only have one free transfer, because you can't carry two over if you free hit in 19. And I could still make a hit to get my Spurs players out and get double game week assets in if I don't hold Spurs players for the fixture at Sheffield United, and then I bench boost in 19. So that's my strategy. Does any of that surprise you, Is that what you expect me to do?
I mean, the only kind of counter argument is that if you waited, you'd probably have that same strategy in game week 26. You'd do what I'm thinking of doing. You'd have another wild card to play. You'd then, back your players to you build your team around the wild card to have the double game weeks. But if I was in your position, I'd do the same thing. I think the only interesting thing is with Spurs, right? Because I remember you saying, was it last week, that you would wildcard with two Spurs in, and then you'd look at taking them out over the next 2 weeks, going into that week. So would you go into that with no Spurs players?
Would I have no Spurs players for the double game week? No, I'll probably end up going into it with two and taking one out as well.
So you'd have one.
So I think I'll probably
pick your favourite.
Yeah, I think that I'll end up not having. I'm not going to have a full suite of double game week, because I don't think I will, because of the fact that unless I take a hit, I could take a hit and take Kane out. If it's going to be Kane that I likely hold for the Sheffield United game, because that's their double game week fixture. They've got a single fixture at Sheffield United, but arguably that's a good fixture to have. And one of the tactics that I'm going to mention later on is, if you don't have a wild card, actually making sure you do have Kane and Son for that Sheffield United game is a good way of trying to get that differential against those who bench boost. Because I think a lot of people who bench boost will go all out, get rid of all their Spurs players for that, and get double game weekers in. That's the normal tactic, but I'm still undecided on what to do with that.
It's interesting as well, because I mean the blank game week 18 isn't amazing. So like I'm going to free hit in game week 18, and I'm looking at the list of games, and I'm like, oh, I mean, it's a little. I mean, you look at your teams, like Liverpool don't have a game, United don't have a game. City have got Brighton, so obviously you're going to back City to smash them, so you're getting through three City players. Let's
bring it up there. There it is at the top. So they're the blanks.
But then you've got Villa Spurs. I mean, that's a tricky one. Sheffield United Newcastle. I don't really want any of those. Wolves Everton, that's a tough game to predict. Who knows what's going to happen in that one? Palace Arsenal, I mean, that could be 0-0, 1-1. That's not, I don't know, I'm not seeing huge amounts of potential in this game outside of that City match. So the free hit in that it really is a free hit. You're literally just getting in players for that week who, like, I might end up with like Joe Linton in my team or something like mad, you know, it's players you're never going to consider. And historically, that kind of free hit week has actually done me quite well. You're getting a players you never normally would consider in a regular week, but you're free hitting them in. So why not? So although the fixtures don't look great, you just got to hope that you kind of nail the ones you get. But I have a feeling that it could be a relatively disappointing low-scoring week, that one.
Yeah, and I think if I wasn't wildcarding and therefore bench boosting, I think I would be very close on whether or not I would free hit at all. It's only because I've got to try and maximise the bench boost. And the best way of doing that is to take 18 out of the equation and not even think about it. Because, you know, there would be if you're trying to cover 18 and 19, and we'll look at some of the strategies in a minute where you have to do that, you have to now look at all your transfers from this point on and go, right, am I getting this player in for 18 or am I getting them in for 19? Yeah. You've got to do one or the other. You can't really do both. You need to you can balance it. That's about it. So you might have 7 or 8 players for 18, and then with transfers and hits, 7 or 8 for the double, right? But then I'm probably going to have 14, right? So I'd hope that gives me some advantage. I might even have 15 if I don't keep a Spurs player. So that's why I'm free hitting. But if I wasn't that pushed on playing the bench boost, I'm not sure I would free hit in 18 for the reasons you say.
Yeah, what swayed it for me, coming at it from a different perspective to you, was that a lot of the teams that have the double game week actually have really good fixtures leading up to the double game week. So good example is Southampton. You know, I bought in Adams. Obviously I bought him in a week too early because he had City, but like he's got Fulham next. That really good game coming up. You look at Liverpool, they've got really good fixtures. They've got Newcastle, they've got Southampton, they've got West Brom this game. Then they've got the double. Chelsea as well were a good example. You know, they had West Ham and then they've got double. I don't know, that it seemed Leicester as well. Like they've got after the United game, they've got Palace and then Newcastle away, and they're good. They're better away from home than being at home. So it just seemed to me that, and Leeds, one more example, Leeds with Burnley and West Brom. I don't know. It just seemed to me, looking at the fixtures, that the teams with the double had better games leading. I didn't want to just build a team of like 4 weeks of being like, it doesn't matter if they get 2 points because they've got the double.
Yeah.
You still need them to get points in those 4 weeks leading up to it.
Well, this is why what we've got on screen at the moment is the path to the blanks and the doubles. So the top table is the double game week teams, the 2 fixtures in game week 19 and their fixtures in 15, 16 and 17. And the bottom table is the teams with the fixture in game week 18 but no double, and their path to that. And you see why Spurs are a team that I'm still looking at, because they've got Wolves, Fulham and Leeds at home before they play Villa in 18. So I think with my wild card, I'll probably still get 2 Spurs players in for the Fulham and Leeds game. And then even though I'm going to free hit in 18, I'll carry those players in. So I'll benefit from the price rise. I guess that's what I'm going to do. Yeah, but what you were talking about there at the top, this is why teams like Burnley are being talked about as, you know, Chris Wood has even been in the conversation at the moment, because they've got, you know, this game week Leeds away, Sheffield United at home, Fulham at home. I mean, those 3 fixtures in terms of the ability to get goals are right up there, right? And then they've got the double, which isn't great, West Ham and Liverpool away. But if you want a cheap player for the double, if you're bench boosting, then getting, you know, a Charlie Taylor in defence and a Chris
Charlie
Wood
Taylor, I was going to say.
That's a route to go down, isn't it?
He was the man, wasn't he, Charlie Taylor? When he got that assist and he's on for like a 11-point haul, everyone's going crazy. I have to say, I did take a lot of satisfaction in Burnley losing that clean sheet in the last sort of 2 minutes. I know Charlie Taylor's not that highly owned, but there was so much smugness around Twitter of Charlie Taylor. I was I was really willing Burnley to concede. So yeah, thanks Wolves.
You appreciate take pleasure in other people's pain. That's fair enough. Yeah,
sometimes.
You got the worst of it all. Yeah, but you're right. I mean, Charlie Taylor gets 1 assist a season. I think Doug said you can't really lament your luck when this is a player who averages 1 assist a season and you just, you've got it. So.
You see his throw-in as well, his foul throw-in. It's like he doesn't deserve any point. I think if any player gets done for a foul throw-in, they should be down to 0. That would be my big that would be my FPL.
Your BPS zeroed out. So so it's important to look at the fixtures before the double game week, particularly if you're not wildcarding, because that obviously is going to decide your transfers that you make between now and the double game week, and you've got to look at the lead up to it, and you've got to consider. I mean, like I said, if you're not free hitting in 18, you've got to try and balance your transfers between now and then to both the double and the blank, and that I think is very difficult. You're not going to exploit the double game week to the full. So if you've only got 7 or 8 players that have got double game weeks, will you bench boost in game week 19? And as you're saying, you're not. So that's at the crux of it, isn't it? It's like you want to put yourself in a position where you've got the players that warrants the bench boost, and I don't think you can do that unless you free hit in 18. I think it's very difficult to do. So that is why, going back to the strategies, that is what I'm doing. Now, the other alternative for those who don't have a free hit but do have a wild card, I don't think there'll be many people who have done that, but that might be the case. They're obviously going to wild card at game week 16, ahead of game week 16, because you have to, and then try and balance your team between game weeks 18 and 19. This is what I'm saying. It's going to be that wild card has to try and do both things. So you can't fully attack game week 19's doubles. You have to try and cater for some players in game week 18, which means that you could play the bench boost. That's still a potential, but you'll probably think twice about it and you may triple captain instead. So I would say if you're doing this, Spurs assets are essential, and Man City are advised, because they've got good fixtures. Well, Spurs have got great fixtures leading up to game week 18, and they've got that game week 18 fixture as well. And they've both got, Man City and Spurs, good fixtures in game week 19. So although they don't have doubles, they're both very good sides with good fixtures in game week 19. So it's not too bad holding single game week players if they play for Spurs and City. And then post game week 18, you use hits and free transfers to boost your double game week assets. And then I guess you've got to decide whether you bench boost or triple captain in game week 19. Do you think there'll be many people who don't play a chip at all in game week 19?
Well, when you say many people, do you mean like in general, or in the kind of
just many managers?
Twitter?
Well, I guess we're in the bubble, aren't we? Okay, in the Twitter bubble, do you think there'll be many on there who won't play any chip at all in game week 19?
I think the vast majority are going to do bench boost or triple captain. And that's the thing. Salah is such a strong option that week. We're not going to get into our debate of triple captains. Because I just can't. I mean, you've already phoned me up once today talking about that and effective ownership and all that. I'm not going to get into it. But whatever way you look at it, Salah in a double game week against United and Burnley, he's going to be the highest owned, the highest captain player. Like I'd say easily, triple captains are going to be flying on him, and you can completely see why. So yeah, I think a lot of people are going to go for that. What if you don't triple captain Salah in that week? What are you waiting for? Like, what are you hoping for?
Well, I guess the point is that what Ben points out is game week 26 will be another strong double game week, and also we should point out there's going to be there has to be some smaller double game weeks coming up as well. So we know that
2 home games though, one against United
and one against Burnley,
and one against Burnley. I mean, it's the best of both worlds, because you're getting a fierce rivalry home game, so you're expecting him to play his strongest team in that, and then you're getting a really weak game where they're expected to score bucket loads of goals. Honestly, I think it's perfect for a triple captain that week. It's gonna be Salah for sure.
There's
get to that point.
There's more evidence as well where I think that it's even more, leaning towards doing that, is the fact that this comes at the end of a rest period for some teams, and Salah should get a decent rest going into game week 19. Whereas if we forward to game week 26, that's less likely. I've got something that highlights that in a minute, but let's just stick to the scenarios for now. Let's go to the people without wildcards, because that is where you come in. So you're on this next strategy, which is you have a free hit available, but no wildcard. So this is what I think you're going to do. But you can correct me if I'm wrong. You're going to use free transfers aimed at double game week 19. So you're going to concentrate on double game week players.
Tick.
You're going to target Liverpool, West Ham, Leeds, and Burnley now because they've got the best fixtures league.
You can cross Burnley off, but
okay, fine.
Tick.
Right. But those 4 teams. So when you're making transfers, if you are concentrating on the double game week and you're discounting game week 18's blanks, Liverpool, West Ham, Leeds, and Burnley are the strongest teams to target because if we go back to the fixtures, it's Burnley, Liverpool, Leeds, and West Ham who have got the best fixtures leading into double game week 19. So you can start getting their players in now, and by doing so, you're getting your double game week players in, but you're also getting players in who've got decent fixtures in the run-in to game week 19 as well. I'm saying here you're going to consider Spurs cover for game week 16 and 17. Is that the case, or you're not?
Well, I'm not. I'm definitely not getting rid of Son.
Right, so you're going to hold him. Right.
Yeah, he's an absolute hold. I mean, like I've said before, I do think Kane is probably, if I was wildcarding, I was going to pick one out of Son and Kane going into the easier fixtures they've got. I've kind of always said Son, I think, suits the counter-attacking style against the better teams, but I think Kane will probably outscore Son fairly comfortably over the easier run they've got. But yeah, I'm certainly not selling Son. Son's done nothing to make me want to sell him. And one of the learnings we've had on BlackBox has always been really consider selling a player in form. Like, are you sure you want to do that? Because, you know, if they're in form, that tends to be a good indication they're going to keep scoring points. So yeah, Son's done nothing to make me. I mean, my season's been awful, but Son has been a shining star. Yeah. He's been great.
Okay, so you're not going to get more in, but you'll hold Son for 16, 17.
Yeah, exactly.
Even though he doesn't have a double game week.
Yeah,
and then you're keeping for game week 18 because he has the fixture in there as well. But you're going to free hit in game week 18. So around Son, you're going to change your team up for that, right? So that's right. And then following game week 18, you'll use free transfers and hits to add some more double game week assets. So do you have a feeling for how many double game week players you want for 19 at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, it's tricky. I mean, Son and probably Martinez will be single game weekers, unless I took a hit for a goalkeeper. I don't really feel like it, but I'll probably go in with 9. I think
9 double game weekers. Yeah, and then
your sound has gone back to the headphones now. That's really strange. What have you done? But okay, so you're going to go with
back now.
That's it. Yeah, you're going to go back with 9. Okay, so that's 9, and that is why you don't feel the bench boost is viable, because 9 you don't feel is enough, and you think in game week 26, if you wildcard in 25, you will stock up more than that. You'll get to double figures.
Exactly. Yeah,
right.
And it'd be easier to, because I mean, you know, I'd have to take a lot of more hits to get a full 13, 14 double game week players out in 19. You know, ideally you want to have 2 double game week goalkeepers. You want to have like your bench options being double game week players, but I don't know if that's really, and the thing as well, it's easier at the end of the season because you've got less weeks to really worry about it. Whereas I don't know, if I build my team up purely for this week, then I feel like I'm going to be spending weeks correcting it back to a normal team. You know? So yeah, it's a balance, isn't it? I can see the logic of both. You know, if I see a bench boost team with 11, 12 double game week players, I'm going to think, yeah, fair play, that you've nailed it. It's, you know, it looks really strong. It just depends on.
But 8 or 9 is that tipping point where you start thinking, I'm going to triple captain instead and keep the bench boost back.
Yeah.
Okay. Now there is an alternative strategy you could adopt, and that is use your transfers now aimed at the blank.
Yep.
Target Spurs and Man City with your transfers, because obviously they've got the fixture, and they've got Spurs in particular got good fixtures leading up to the blank as well. And you know, Spurs and Man City have got the double game week. But what you could do is free hit in game week 19.
Yeah.
And do that. Because you look at Man City, they've actually got good fixtures coming out of the double as well. So that would stand you good stead there. Is that something you've considered?
It was briefly, but like I said, it was the likes of the teams like Southampton and Leicester and other teams who had good game weeks coming up. So City and Spurs, like, I don't know, are kind of the anomaly, but the other teams, when you're planning that, it didn't fit as well. So it just seemed to me that the teams to target were the ones with the double because of the games they've got coming up, going into it.
Well, let's just look at the fixtures leading into it as well. So that if you were targeting transfers at Game Week 18, it'd be Tottenham, Arsenal, Sheffield United, Palace, Man City, Everton, Wolves, Brighton,
Well, that's exactly it.
Villa and
you really want to be
Newcastle.
targeting Arsenal, Sheffield United, Palace players, like for a start. You look at the first lot on the list. You look at Liverpool, Leeds, West Ham, Southampton, Leicester, United are there, Chelsea are there. There's just better teams on the list than in the second one. So that to me, that chart right there shows exactly why I went for the option I'm going for.
Yeah, because it makes it easier to make transfers in these next 3 game weeks, 15, 16 and 17, that don't break your team and condemn you to bad game weeks in those game weeks.
Well, exactly. And if you're free hitting in the double game week, don't forget you're going to get back your old team that was in 18.
Yeah, so
you're going to be getting back in your Arsenal players, Sheffield United players, your Crystal Palace players.
Joe Linton's going to be back in your team. You don't
why have I got these guys?
Yeah. I think that's valid. That makes sense. Let's look at the no wildcard and no free hit. I mean, first of all, apologies, and I feel sorry for you. This is the case because it's going to be very difficult.
Something's gone wrong.
Yeah, I guess what you can do is you use your free transfers and hits and aim them at both. Try and get a balance between 18 and 19. And what I've said is you're targeting West Ham, Liverpool, Leeds and Burnley right now. That gets you some decent coverage for double game week at this moment in time. But it's very, very tricky to do that. And I would say alongside that, you're going to need Spurs and Man City to cover the single game week, cover the blank game week 18 because they have a fixture there, and also they have a good double game week fixture. So I'd say West Ham, Liverpool, Leeds, and Burnley are your double game week target teams, but you need to get Spurs and City assets as well. And then post game week 18, you use free hits. You use hits and free transfers to add some more double game week assets as much as you can. As much as you see as viable. I mean, how many hits would you take? I mean, if you were going to take a hit leading to game week 19, what would you do? -4, -8? Would you go to town even more than that?
I don't know. It's a weird question, that, because you never really know. I mean, I'm considering a -8 this week, which I'd never normally take, but that's because I've got 3 defenders not playing. So it's all relative. Like a -8 and -12, removing players like Son or De Bruyne who have got good games, even though they're single game weeks, I don't think it's worth it. But if you're removing crap players for players with a double game week and you see a more long-term fix for doing that, then I can understand it. So there's no right option. It's not just about, I would never suggest taking a -8 or a -12 because it's completely dependent on the team setup you've got. But if you're taking a -8, -12, consider if your team does really need it. Is my advice.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're going to be doing shows nearer the time, right? So you are going to be in this situation where ahead of game week 19, you'll be deciding what you want to do with that.
Yeah,
wherever you want to take hits at that point. And then I guess your chip is you can't really bench boost. I don't think you're going to be in a situation to bench boost. You'll look at a potential triple captain on Salah in 19, which isn't disastrous, and it's one that Az is endorsing at the moment. So that's all fine. Now, going back to the bench boost and the triple captain to an extent, I want to talk about 26 versus 19. Now, I knocked this up. Ben Crellin's got nothing to worry about with spreadsheets. I knocked this up really quickly before the show. What is interesting about the 2 potential areas to play the bench boost? Now, in my view, we either play it in 19 or we play it in 26 because they're the 2 biggest double game weeks, right? And you want to play your bench boost in a double game week, and you want as many fixtures as you can to give you a choice and to exploit it the most. Now, a lot of people aren't going to bench boost for 19, and they're going to go, well, it's a big double game week in 26. That's music to my ears. That's great. I can use it then. I can wildcard in 25. And the benefit there is you're wildcarding just before the bench boost. So the other thing is, the disadvantage I'm in is I'm having to wildcard ahead of 16 to plan for a game week, which is 2 fixtures on. So actually, it's quite difficult for me to build a team and not expect some disruption in game week 17 and 18, which cock up my wildcard a bit. So I might have to take a hit or 2 to repair some things. Whereas if you're bench boosting in 26 and you wildcard in 25, it's minimal risk, you would think. But one thing I want to draw to people's attention is that game week 19, the double game week teams could go into that with quite a spell of rest, because basically you've got game week 17, the 1st to 4th of January. Then you've got the Carabao Cup semi-finals, so Man City, Spurs, Everton or Man United are involved in that. Then in game week 18, there's no fixture for the double game week 19 teams, so they don't play in that game week. After that, it's the FA Cup, and you've got to think that a lot of the big double game week teams, like Liverpool, perhaps won't play full-strength teams in the FA Cup. So it's possible that someone like Salah, who, if he doesn't play in the FA Cup, will go into game week 19 off the back of a long rest, which is another reason why a triple captain on Salah looks good, right? So because he's going to play both fixtures in game week 19. But the other thing here is, when you look ahead to game week 26, that comes immediately after the last 16 of the Champions League and the last 32 of the Europa League. So in the midweek before game week 26, you've got Man City against Borussia, Chelsea, Atletico, Spurs, Wolfsburg, United, Real Sociedad, Arsenal, Benfica, Leicester, Slavia Prague. Only Liverpool.
Look at that research, Mark.
Yeah, only Liverpool don't play before game week 26. They play Leipzig the week before, ahead of game week 25. So the problem here, that if you're bench boosting, you're going to wildcard in 25, but then you've got to hope to navigate through those European fixtures without any injuries. Plus, there's a good chance there'll be some rest, because players like Salah, like De Bruyne, they'll all play in Europe because they're going to play in the last 16, and even, teams like Spurs are going to take the Europa League seriously because Mourinho does. So the problem with bench boosting, and the big problem always with bench boosting, is rest and rotation. You end up trying to predict who's going to play both games, and you don't get it right, and someone gets rested. I would say right now that rotation is going to be less of a problem in game week 19 when you bench boost than it will be in game week 26 because of those European fixtures.
That, Mark, is insight.
Yeah, I mean,
Love that.
I just think that's the case.
That's really nice.
I haven't heard this being mentioned anywhere else so far. So when people are saying, well, I'm not bench boosting, I'll save it for 26, that's more difficult, I think, because it's the business end of the season, plus it's off the back of these European games. And not only have you got to worry about injuries, because you're going to play your wildcard in 25 not knowing who's going to come through those European fixtures. You've got to worry about rest over the doubles, because if De Bruyne plays against Borussia, is he going to play 2 fixtures in game week 26? He might do. If they're still up there challenging the title, he probably will. But there's no doubt in my mind that the double game weekers in 19 are going to play both fixtures because of the FA Cup tie and the fact that a lot of heavy hitters will get rested in that, I think. So that period of extended rest for game week 19 makes the bench boost more attractive to me than it does in 26.
I mean, it's awesome.
Right.
I love that. That is just great insight. Yeah, and it's going to be great when when the double game week rolls around in game week 26 and everyone gets no points and they all blame you. So
no, I think the bench boot.
No, they won't blame you because they'll they'll have got the points.
I'm not saying that bench boot is not viable in 26. I'm just saying it's going to be trickier. And even though you're playing the wild card in 25 and you think, well, that's better because I'm closer to the bench boost. Yeah. The fact that the big teams are all playing in midweek means that you've got to get through that and hope there's no problems. And anything can happen, 1 or 2 injuries. And don't forget, if you're bench boosting, you're probably going to get some fringe players from those teams as well. You're not just going to get the heavy hitters. You might get a Mason Mount or something like that. So he could get injured. Who knows who the bench boost targets are going to be around there. But, you can't be confident off the back of those fixtures that you're going to have 15 double game weekers coming into 26. Given that a lot of those teams, or the best teams as well, are playing in Europe. And you've got to think as well that those teams are the ones most likely to have a double, because the double in 26 is based on progression in the FA Cup. So you've got to think that the fixtures in double game week 26 are going to be the better teams who progress in the FA Cup. So it's likely to be Man City, Chelsea, Spurs, United, Arsenal and Leicester. They are likely to be the teams who will have double game weeks because they're most likely to get to the later rounds of the FA Cup. But those are the teams who play midweek immediately before the double game week. So it's really hard. So I'm just it's just out there as a warning.
No, it's awesome. I guess the question mark is, though, in game week 26, will we see someone like Salah with a double game week as good as he's got
Exactly.
against United at home and Burnley at home.
That's
the gamble you take.
Yeah,
that's the gamble you take.
That's when you said about triple captain him in 19. I think yes, because he's going to get a long rest. If he doesn't play in the FA Cup, he's going to get a 10-day or even more rest, I think, because he doesn't play in the Carabao Cup, doesn't play 18, and he might get rested in the FA Cup, right? I know they're at Villa. I think they're at Villa, aren't they? Yeah, I think they're at Villa. So it's not an easy game. So he might play that in the FA Cup. Who knows, right?
So bench boost is ideal in 19, but also triple captain.
Yeah, I think so, because I think I'm probably going to have to play. Now, the reason why the triple captain I'm saving it is because game week 26 is not the only double game week we've got left. And you only need one player for the triple captain. Whereas for the bench boost, you need as many as you can get. So it's the bench boost, which is the real problem for 26. Triple captain to an extent, but then there might be another opportunity coming up with additional smaller double game weeks. But you're right. I think the triple captain is best on Salah in 19 now, given the European ties going into 26. So anyway, that's
amazing. Really interesting. I mean, I didn't know any of that. So that is really good.
Yeah, I mean, it's a real curveball because and we got to remember that this rest period is the fact that these fixtures are moving to 19 is to give teams and players an extended rest. That's if I think Ben said there's some possibility that fixtures might drop into that break, but I don't think that's going to be the case. I think the Premier League will try and resist that. But anyway, does that compound the triple captain for you in 19 then?
Well, no, it complicates if anything, because now I'm thinking the bench boost might be better to be played earlier on. I don't know. It's such a tricky one. I think the thing is, it's that kind of thing where things seem to fall in place for my team to play it now. So why not build my team now to make the most of it as best I can? You never really know what's going to happen down the line. You've still got coronavirus going on. You've still got all this other stuff going on. It almost feels like if we've got the opportunity to kind of make the most of it right now, I still want to do that as best I can. And that still seems to be the strategy that I've got. If I start thinking about how things in game week 26 affect my thinking now, I don't know, it kind of muddles things a bit. So it's amazing insight, but like I still think I'm going to stick with what I've got.
Yeah. I mean, you can only play with what's in front of you, right? And this is speculation to an extent, and it is fact that these teams will play, but we don't know who's going to have the double game week in 26. That's going to be based on FA Cup progression, and I presume that it's going to be some of those teams, but it might not be. So it's it's very, very difficult to predict that, and I think what we've got in front of us is known fact, right? We know who's got doubles, we know who's got blanks, and you've got to play your chips as best for that at all. So, as you need a break, do you?
I need a quick break.
Okay,
and then I'll be back.
This is the first in BlackBox. You need a break, so that's fine.
Well, the trouble was I had my work quiz before this, and I drank quite a few beers before that. So I do quite desperately need a wee. So if you can hold the fort for a few seconds, then
that's fine. That's fine.
I'll be back.
on that bombshell, I will do that. Yeah. So it's going to be interesting. Let's go back to the scenario. So it is. I think with me on the wild card, I don't think I have a choice. I think that, and in a way, that's kind of nice, because when I was listening to FPL Wire today and they were talking about game week 18 and whether you should free hit, I was like, my God, if I wasn't wildcarding and if I wasn't bench boosting as a result of the wildcard, I would be absolutely torn on whether to free hit in 18. It really is an argument to have that you should hold it off. But for me, and having done the research into game week 26 as well, I think that the bench boost in 19 is the best option for me. Not only because I've got the wild card, because of those European fixtures, which I know what it's like when you bench boost. You want to exploit it to the full, right? The worst thing is you end up hoping you've got 15 double game week players, and then you end up with 10 or 11 or even less because of rest and rotation. And I think those European fixtures just add a curveball into the mix that create uncertainty about that. So in a way, I'm really glad. I was just saying, I'm really glad that I've kept the wild card this long, because it absolutely just makes up my mind for me. I haven't got to think about what to do. That strategy there, that top one with the 16 wild card aim at double game week, free hit in 18 and bench boost in 19, that is the only option I can do really to exploit what I've got left. It exploits the wildcard and it exploits the bench boost, and it makes up my mind for me. And in a way, I'm just glad because I haven't got to go for the torture of what a lot of managers are going through now as to what chip to play when, and how many players before it's enough to bench boost. And yeah, I'm pleased that I haven't got to be part of that circuit.
Yeah, it's interesting because I haven't had that. Like I've been so set on this plan, and like different things have come in, but it's always still felt like the right thing to do. So I haven't really been torturing myself about different strategies and different plans. I've been considering them as I've seen them, and I can see the logic of waiting. I can see the logic of everything, but I think a good thing to do is look at the team you've got right now and just see how you're set. And that's what I think we did last week. And I think I was kind of in the middle. I think I could have gone either way. I could have gone prepare my team for the blanks, or I could have gone prepare them for the double. But look at your team now. If you've got 3 or 4 players in place now for double game week, you're probably not going to be able to get out a really strong team. So maybe that's when you need to think about alternative strategies. Maybe you do need to plan for the blanks. Maybe you do need to change it around. It's very dependent on what you've got, what chips you've got, like we've said, what players you've got in your team. So yeah, a stock check right now is perfect. If you're watching this and you don't really understand any of this, double game weeks are confusing, blanks are confusing, all of that, just take a look at your team. Who have you got playing in the blank? Who have you got playing in the double game week? And then build your strategy around that, would be my advice.
But if you've got the wild card left, I think what I'm doing is possibly the best route, given that, I'm not being big-headed about it, but it kind of is, because it's kind of obvious that to make the most of the wildcard, unless your team needs the wildcard now, and if you haven't played it up to this point, odds are that you've been happy with your team, right? So that's the case for me. And I look at my team now, and actually I don't want to play the wildcard. I would probably, if there was no double game weeks and blanks, I'd leave it alone, right? I'm only playing it now. The only reason I'm playing the wildcard is to aim it at the double game week, because to me, that's the only way I can get an advantage from the wildcard, because as it stands, I wouldn't touch my team very much at all. So because I've got to play it or I burn it, which isn't really, that'd be amazing to go, well, actually, I'm not going to play the wildcard. This double game week is a gift to me. It's an opportunity, and I've got to try and back myself to get the right players in terms of the right players with the free hit and the right players with the wildcard to make the most of that, to make the most of the bench boost. So I think if you've got your wildcard left, this top strategy with the bench boost in 19 is probably the only route to go down. I don't really think there's an alternative. So yeah, I think your mind is made up with that. If you don't have a wild card, it's so different, and there's so many more variables to consider. And like you say, that then is based on how does your team look for 18? How does it look for 19? Does it lend itself to one or the other? And does that make up your mind what you aim for with the free transfers to this point? And then you probably do the triple captain rather than bench boost, depending on how many double game weeks you've got going into 19. But like I said, bear in mind that then your other opportunity is 26 to bench boost, and that has more uncertainty, I think, in terms of double game week players.
I mean, to be in the position you're in around the 100k mark with a wild card in play, all your chips, it's gone from a pretty disastrous season 4 or 5 weeks ago to suddenly be you're in a really strong position to really kick on. So
I'm not the only one. If you go back to the great and the good, Fabio Borges and FPL General have got exactly the same. They're better off than me. They're higher than me. So you look at Fabio and General and think, well, they've got to be thinking they're going to get in the top 10k off the back of just this, and then they're in the top 10k after 19, and they've then got the other half of the season to try and get it down from there. So they're in for good finishes, really strong.
Yeah, I think the blank, and at the moment it kind of feels like everyone's ranks, and maybe I'm just saying this because I'm so low down, but everyone's ranks are a bit kind of fake in a way, and it feels like the blank and the double game week is the first real kind of, once that's over and you see where you are and you take stock, that is a good indication of how things have gone. Because it is inflated, because a lot of people in the top 10k, a lot of people in the top 100k are going to use their chips. They're going to free hit, they're going to bench boost, they're going to triple captain. We know the chips inflate the ranks. So this is the first real test for people like us to really kind of push on. And if I come out of game week 19 and I'm in and around, I don't know, 200k, 300k, something like that, then I think I stand a good chance of kicking on into the top 10k, towards the end of the season.
Yeah.
So I'm absolutely not throwing in the towel. It'd be interesting to know where I am after that. If I finish that run and I'm still 1.5 million, then it's then it's crisis time. But hopefully,
this is a period of big shake-ups, and it's ironic, isn't it? It's like it's Christmas, and it's a time where you want to spend most of the time thinking about family and thinking about friends. And well, I know it's difficult it's difficult in lockdown, but it is a time with that. And actually, for FPL managers, it's really, really hectic and intense because the fixtures are thick and fast, and you've got this thrown in earlier this season in game week, because you've got to play the wildcard before 16. So it's pretty testing time for us. Poor FPL managers is what I say. I just want to
think of us.
I know. I just want to look at the route out fixtures, because one thing we haven't talked about, and it's something that FPL Wire guy has got into, and it's a very good point, is that when you're building your team for 19, you've got to look at the fixtures coming out of the double game week as well, because you don't want to saddle yourself with a team that's great for 19, but then has awful fixtures to follow that. So what we've got here is the double game week teams: Fulham, Leicester, West Ham, Chelsea, Leeds United, West Brom, Southampton, Liverpool, Burnley rather. We've all got double game weeks, and they're ranked according to the fixtures after 19. So Fulham have actually got the best run of fixtures after 19. They got Brighton away, West Brom away, Leicester at home, West Ham at home. So even though they've got Chelsea and United at home in the double game week, which isn't that attractive, going one of their players, a bench, a cheap bench former like Lookman, wouldn't be bad, because at least you've got him coming out of the double game week and he's got good fixtures after that. So just bear that in mind. Have a look at the fixtures for those teams in 2021 and beyond to make sure
look at United and City. Yeah,
well, this is it. I mean, this is why City and holding City and Tottenham players in the 19, even though they don't have a double game week, City in particular, if you hold Diaz will play against Palace. Could be a clean sheet, should be really. Okay, he's only got one fixture, but he could outscore, a double game week defender for Southampton or West Brom or Leeds, certainly, right? He could outscore most double game week defenders. And then out of that, he's got West Brom, Sheffield United and Burnley, which is 3 clean sheets.
Unbelievable. I mean, Palace, West Brom, Sheffield United and Burnley for City. Unbelievable run for them.
Yeah. So consider that. So don't be obsessed about getting all your City and Spurs players out. Holding one at least in the double game week and having a City player at home to Palace and a Spurs player away to Sheffield United, they could outscore double game weekers. And then, you've got them coming out of the game week. And, Spurs have got Liverpool and Chelsea at home, but they've also got Brighton and West Brom in the next 4 that follows double game week. So not bad. And, Kane and Son against Liverpool and Chelsea at home, you saw what they did to City, so you can't really back against them even in tough fixtures. So just bear that in mind as well. That's something to look at and something to consider when you're building your team.
Mahrez.
What's that, sorry, Az?
Hamza Sadiqui in the chat just says, keep Mahrez.
Well, you're not going to do that, are you? You're looking for every opportunity to get rid of Mahrez, that's for sure. Okay, let's look at Game Week 15.
That's awesome. That was all your prep, so yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, it took a lot. I mean, I did have the data. I mean, I'll tell you what, I was listening to so many people talk about double, a lot of pods and streams this week, absolute quality. Listen to Planet FBL, listen to The Wire as well. Really excellent stuff. I mean, this is a time where content creators come into their own, because, we take the time to look at this stuff and hopefully help you guys out. But, it's very hard to cover it all. And there's loads of stuff I probably haven't struck upon here that you can get from those guys as well. So try and take in as much as you can, because there's some really quality stuff out there. Who got the assist as well, and surgery. Loads of people talking about this week, and so make sure you catch their stuff because it's great. Fixtures, Game Week 15 then. Let's have a quick scoot through these, shall we, as we normally do. Leicester Man United, the early kickoff on the Saturday. We've got a big Saturday ahead of us. Thoughts on that? Difficult Leicester, isn't it?
I love Boxing Day fixtures so much. Honestly, the Boxing Day fixtures are the best day of my year. I love them so much.
What is it about Boxing Day?
I don't know, you just got Christmas out the way. Like, you're eating your leftover turkey. You're sat home. I mean, this will be the first time in my entire life that I'm not at my parents' house in Brentwood, Essex. We're doing Christmas here up in Cambridge. That'd be weird because
your sound's dropping in and out again, Az. I don't know what's going on there. Your microphone again.
I don't know why. How's it now?
Yeah, keep talking. It sounds like you're coming through your headphones again. Don't know why.
I don't think.
No.
It says it's a sure.
Okay, you're cutting in and out. Keep talking. We'll keep going. So you're talking about Leicester Man United and Boxing Day and how you're looking forward to it.
Yeah. Just in general, like I've always loved Boxing Day. It's always been the day that I spend at home with my parents and watch it with my dad and stuff. Obviously, I won't be able to do that this year, which is a shame. But better watch it at home, which is nice. But yeah, I fancy United in this one. I think Leicester have been better away from home, and United have been better away from home. Weirdly enough. And we saw at the end of last season, United just had too much for Leicester. It came to that crucial game when, if Leicester had won that game, I think they would have got top 4, and they barely put up a fight. United just had too much for them, too much pace, too much power. Fernandes will be playing. Martial is looking like he's hitting a good run of form. Yeah, I actually fancy Martial United to win this quite comfortably. So I'm going to go.
Yeah, Leicester at home has been troubling, hasn't it? I mean, they are more effective away from home. Obviously, the game plan works better with the counter attack and so on. And United's away form is so strong. So you just got to think that. Yeah, I mean, I don't mind carrying Bruno into this at all. I don't think he's a captain option by any means, but I think there's a return in it for him because he, as we know, he's very, very strong away from home. So I'm going to go away win as well. I don't think it's be allowed. I'm going to go 2-1 to United here. Villa Palace. Got to back Villa here, although Palace have shown some form. And away from home, they're normally effective. Got a lot of threat up front. Benteke will be back against his former club. I think Villa still nick it though, especially if Barkley's coming back to fitness. So I'm going to go a Villa home win by 2-0. I'll go for.
Wow. Is my sound any better? I've just unplugged it and plugged it back in.
Yeah, that's better. Yeah.
I'm going to go the opposite.
You're going to Palace away win, are you?
Well, when a team gets battered, like Palace did, I always sense there's going to be some kind of, point to prove or some kind of resurgence they're going to have. And Villa again are better away from home. They've looked better away, and Grealish's returns tend to come away from home as well. I'm actually going to go for a Palace win. I think they might have a little bit too much for Villa with Zaha up front causing problems. I'm going to go for 2-1 Palace.
Yeah, this is it. You're right about the bounce off the back of the thrash into Liverpool. And normally we see a reaction. Hodgson obviously knows how to pick his team up. So yeah, you could be right there. I'm only going Villa win because I think look at the data, attack and defence, they look strong at the moment. And
neither would surprise me.
No, but I think Barkley coming back as well.
Yeah,
okay, Fulham Southampton. This is actually tricky. Fulham have shown fight. They've shown that they've got a bit of something about them. They're playing decent football for sure, right? Mitrovic out the team and he's playing with a bit of pace up front with Lookman and Loftus-Cheek pushing on, and I like Anguissa, of course. Southampton, though, are so well organised and have I guess it's a question of is Ings going to be fit, and I don't think he is. He's so important to them. But I tell you, when I had the City defenders and I wanted the City clean sheet, the minute Ings went off, I thought the points are in the bank here. The minute Ings went off, Southampton's threat reduced massively because he doesn't only get on the end of things, he's running off the ball, his creativity is a thing now. Much like Kane, he's found a creative element to his game as well. So if Ings isn't fit, Southampton I think are massively reduced in terms of an attacking threat, and they're not that strong even with him sometimes. So I think Fulham could nick this 1-0.
Wow, interesting. It was frustrating because I did the Mopay to Adams move, which didn't look ideal on paper because Adams had City. I could have easily just done someone like Mitchell to Diaz because I had money in the bank.
Right.
But the reason I didn't want to do that was because I thought Southampton would score. And it's always a risk to back against City keeping a clean sheet. But I liked with Ings back and Southampton in the form they were. I thought if I just do this move to Diaz and they just concede, it's going to be really disappointing. But at least if I get in Adams, it's going to give me a chance of getting something. But I watched the game exactly like you say. As soon as Ings went off, and Adams played well, but was kind of did everything wrong. I don't know. He was busy. He was a busy player, is how I describe him. He was kind of constantly there and doing well, but never really had the quality to really threaten. But I think against Fulham, he might be put up front with Walcott again.
Yeah.
They had a good partnership when Ings was injured last time. I fancy Southampton this. I still think they played well against City. I think they're unlucky not to score. I think it's going to be a 2-1 Southampton.
Yeah, and Adams and Walcott are, if you're bench boosting, if you're wildcard, and they're cheap double game week assets that warrant some attention. They've got tough fixtures, but Adams and Walcott are in that price bracket, like Rafinha, as we mentioned, who they could be worth a look. Okay, Arsenal, Chelsea. I can only see a Chelsea. I mean, what's going on at Arsenal?
What's going on with Arsenal is they have a genuinely terrible team, like an awful squad. Like you look at their team, and it is crap across every position. I mean, Leno, is fine, and Aubameyang is fine. The rest of the team is a joke.
How we got to that point where they've been,
I don't know.
Yeah.
I honestly, I don't know. I don't like any of their players at all. And I just don't know what Arteta can do about it. And it makes the Ozil thing just seem so ridiculous because they're a team that's crying out for creativity. And he's been so ostracized. And there must be stuff going on that we don't know about because it's not just Arteta. It's Emery, it's Wenger, it's everyone. Like no one likes him. There must be something weird going on. But he's the player that could potentially unlock everyone. And he's not even in the Premier League squad. They're a joke. I'm sorry, Arsenal fans, but your team is a joke.
Sad state of affairs. And Chelsea
3-0 win.
Chelsea will go there. I can't see Arsenal scoring, and which is
they beat United. I mean, how did Arsenal beat United? It's crazy. It's absolutely mad. But they're a team in.
But they've been forward in Europe. I mean, they've had moments there. They've had form there, but they haven't been able to do anything in the league that's sustained any kind of run. And Chelsea will have too much for them, and I don't see Arsenal scoring. So I think at least 2, maybe 3-0, like you say.
They've got Gabriel out. They've got Partey's injured.
Well, Aubameyang's injured, isn't he? So
Aubameyang's injured. Like they've got Elneny, who shouldn't even be anywhere near the team. He's like a championship player at best. He's still hovering around. He's banned as well, isn't he? 3 games.
I don't. Elneny. I'm not absolutely sure. But,
Xhaka as well. Is he banned?
What
is their team? They've got no team.
I did a feed with Infria recently, and where we did the Dream Team thing, and we were talking about Arsenal. She's an Arsenal fan, and Arsenal came up, and I'd completely forgotten that Aubameyang is a midfielder.
Yeah,
it's been so long since I looked at Arsenal and considered any of their assets that it slipped my mind, even though we had him game week 1 because of the double, because of the fixtures rather. I just did not remember at all. So
I remember us talking about this at the start of the season. I think we knew he was going to be reclassified as a midfielder, and I thought that's a hack. He's going to be one of the top scoring players in the game. Like obviously, you just get Aubameyang and just keep him in your team. He's a midfielder. He's going to be 5 points for a goal.
Penalties, the whole lot.
Penalties. Yeah. Absolutely crazy. You never would have. If you told me on the 23rd of December, Aubameyang would be literally a joke, FPL wise, and have got like as many own goals as goals, or whatever it is, I would have thought it was a joke. But
crazy. Their demise is really scary. How far is it going to go? But we know. I think Chelsea are going to win this game with a clean sheet. City Newcastle now. Tricky, isn't it? Because you think, before the West Brom game, you'd look at this fixture and go, City will 2 or 3 goals, easily win this. Clean sheet. I mean, a clean sheet is probably likely, right? Because defensive data shows that City's defence is the one to back at the moment, along with Chelsea. Newcastle's goal threat isn't fantastic. They got a bit about them, but I don't think enough to catch City on the break. They've got a bit of pace, but I think City will be too wise for it. How many goals can City get, though? That's the question.
How many are they capable of getting? I mean, literally, other than De Bruyne, I have not been impressed with them. Cancelo's been good, to be fair, when he plays, either on the left or the right. But then I look at Sterling. I mean, he's had 2 goals and 2 assists in the last 4 games, so he is starting to hit a bit of form.
Yeah,
ticking over. On the right, who are they going to play? I mean, Mahrez, Torres, Bernardo. Who knows? Foden, yeah. Up front, is Aguero fit to start? He loves scoring against Newcastle.
This is his fixture, isn't it? This is his hat-trick fixture. He's done it twice, hasn't he?
I think he's going to start.
Do you?
Yeah, I do. And I think he'll score. I think City will win it. Not the most amazingly bold prediction ever. But I can't see them getting like 5 or 6. I reckon the 2 or 3-0.
And this is it. We're going to look at captains briefly in a bit. And normally you would say De Bruyne would be a rival to Salah. Salah playing West Brom, City, Newcastle, you think. But it's not really, is it? He doesn't present a good enough case. Like, he could come out of this game with a good score, but he can't. You can't look at this City at Newcastle, home to Newcastle, Liverpool and West Brom, and go, De Bruyne will rival Salah.
No
for captaincies.
way.
No.
If Liverpool were playing like Chelsea or something, and it was a bit tougher, but Liverpool are home to West Brom.
No,
you've got to be brave. I mean, you go for De Bruyne thinking, I'll be a bit different, but you're not just banking on De Bruyne scoring points. You're also banking on De Bruyne scoring more points than Salah in that game.
Yeah.
You've got to be brave.
And the problem is, De Bruyne is, I think, he's putting out all the stops, right? He is shooting more often. He's creating chances at a rate, similar to last season, but they're not getting converted. It's just not happening.
The thing is, do I think that Bruce can set up Newcastle to stifle City? Yeah,
I know.
I think he can. I think they're perfect for that.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't think it's going to be a complete mauling.
No, because the West Brom blueprint is there, and Bruce is more than capable of doing that. Yeah, and he's got the players who are used to playing in that way. They've got some injuries at the back, and maybe that will scupper it a bit. But I do think the resistance will be there. So I think City win, but again, it'll be an uncomfortable 2-0, I think. Sheffield United, Everton. I can only see Everton winning that. I mean, I keep waiting for the Sheffield United recovery. It's not coming, is it? What did you think of them at Brighton?
What did I think of Sheffield United against Brighton?
Yeah, what did you think of their performance?
I thought they were rubbish.
Yeah, not good, was it?
But I also thought Brighton were rubbish.
Yeah,
it was one of the worst games. It was a genuinely depressing game of football to watch, and I can't see Sheffield United just don't have much. Brewster looks completely out of his depth there.
I know.
Which.
It was so funny because my son wanted me to play FIFA with him, and he was saying, "Why are we watching this game?" I said, "Because I've got a player in it." And he said, "Which one have you got?" And I said, "It's that one there, Brewster." And he's like going, "He's not touching the ball." I'm like, "Yes, I know. Thank you." My son is 8 years old.
When's his team come in?
And then but it's not long. And then I said to him, "Look, if he goes off, we'll turn it off and we'll play FIFA." Right? Thinking, well, he'll get at least an out. And then when Lundstrom got sent off, I was like, "Oh God,
here he goes.
He's going to go off, isn't he?" And he didn't get the hour, and he went off. And then I turned it off and played FIFA.
Did you beat him?
Yeah. I don't let him win.
No, you can't. Yeah. Absolutely. I don't know. I was really disappointed with Sheffield United. I was even more disappointed with Brighton. I think I saw something in the chat that Richarlison went off injured for Everton, which is a big blow if that's true.
Is he flagged?
But yeah, but even with that, Everton are going to win that game. Everton have, we've been talking them down for quite a few weeks. Yeah. They're bottom of defence last 4 weeks, bottom of the attack constantly, but they've really started picking things up. So you've got to back up against Sheffield United. They're one of the worst teams we've seen in the Premier League. So
Calvert-Lewin finds a way. It's against his former club as well. I think he'll get something as he always seems to. So, okay, on to Sunday, Leeds Burnley. This could be it's a clash of styles, isn't it? I don't know how Burnley are going to cope with the Leeds way of playing, the high intensity, the man to man, the numbers in attack, and Burnley haven't got the weaponry to expose the space behind Leeds, right? So they haven't got pace on the break. So I think Leeds might get away with it. I think they win. Will there be a clean sheet? You've got to look at their set pieces. They're so bad at set piece defending. You've got to think that Sean Dyche right now is thinking, well, we just win some corners and we win the game. And to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if that does happen.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I love Daniel Bedford in the chat. 8-3.
Yeah, well.
wouldn't bet against it. Leeds can't keep clean sheets, and B, I don't think they can stop Burnley at set pieces. So Burnley are going to score in that game.
Yeah.
That's almost certainly.
I know.
But I do think Leeds are going to control the game and score themselves. I think I can see it being like 3-2 Leeds or 4-2 Leeds or something. I think Leeds will win it, but just 4-2 I'll go.
Yeah, I think so. I'll go 4-1. I think Burnley will nick one, but I think it'll be all Leeds. West Ham Brighton, your team there.
Christ.
Sorry, Az, I've got to go West Ham win. I just,
we got no chance.
Too much for you, I think. Will you score at West Ham? I don't know if you will. I'm going to go 2-0, simple home
2-0.
win, routine win, I think. Yeah.
Bang on.
You don't
No
think...
Lamptey, no chance has been created. Just dreadful across the board. Easy West Ham win.
You're in trouble,
2-0.
I think. I mean, the fact is that West Brom, I think, it's very difficult to see West Brom getting out of it, but Fulham have got some fight in them. Burnley know how to get out of it. Brighton are in trouble down there, I think, because I don't think they're too nice, and I don't think Potter's got a plan B that works. Welbeck's given you some hope, I guess, but
I mean, you only talk to my dad, who he's probably listening to this stream right now. He hates Mopé. He is also very much turning against Potter as well, and I can't really argue a big enough case for Potter. I think it's reaching the point when Potter's had enough time now. It's not really working. I think decisions are going to have to be made by Bloom pretty soon. So
I think they'll give him the window and see what he brings in. I think the transfer window is vital to you. He needs a plan B. He needs another way of playing, because the way they are setting out isn't working. There's no cutting edge there. They are restricting teams to chances, but they're letting in goals still, but even so. I don't know. You always seem to get out of it. You always have a run, but I don't know when it's going to come.
The problem is like a few people have said in the chat, is that like we play nice football, and that's kind of it. But like against Sheffield United, and you saw it coming over the last few weeks, is that less and less chances have been created, and even at the start of the season, we were scoring some goals, but not really creating that much. The confidence is just being sapped out of the team. Mopé is just gone. Like, he shouldn't even be starting. So it's Welbeck up front. I rate Welbeck, but is he going to be a 10, 15 goal striker? I'm not really sure. The creativity we've got around him changes every week. Like, there's no settled team. Trossard's in 1 week, he's out. Gross is in 1 week out. I don't know. And the system, like, we've got Ben White playing in midfield, like, immediately takes away. I mean, he played at right wing back, like in the last game. He's the worst crosser of the ball I've ever seen in my life. He's a fantastic centre back. He can do okay at centre mid. You start sticking him on the right wing. It's like Potter is just trying. He's just trying too much to make things work. I won't go on about Brighton too much. Basically, don't bring any Brighton players in.
No.
We're going to lose to West Ham.
Yep.
We're probably in a relegation battle. There you go.
Yeah, so if you're looking at Creswell, Kufal, Bowen, any of those players,
Welbeck at 5.5 is still a decent pick. I think he is gonna get goals, and I think he will do well for that price point. He's going to be better than Brewster. I can guarantee that. But Brighton are just a better moment.
Okay, Liverpool, West Brom. This has got to be a heavy victory for Liverpool. I mean, this is what we're banking on. West Brom went to City and put up a fight, but I just think Liverpool have got far more of a cutting edge than City at the moment. They're creating a lot of big chances in comparison to other teams, and they've got the players to take them. And what they did to Palace was just ridiculous. It was surgically just dismantled them, didn't they? The finishing was crazy. Yeah,
and neither of us predicted that. We were sat here last week, and we said Palace are going to stifle them. It's going to be probably a close game. I think we both picked a 1-0 or 2-0 Liverpool win between us. 7-0. I mean, who the hell saw that coming? The thing with West Brom, though, is they've done well against the big sides.
Yeah, and Sam will know what
to do.
Won't he? But
I just don't know what they can do. Like, if Liverpool play like they did against Palace, surgical is the exact term. It was just brutal. Like, every attack could have been a goal. It was unbelievable. And I think it's going to be a 4 or 5-0 Liverpool.
Yeah,
I just think they're going to smash them.
It depends if the early goal doesn't go then they may hold them to a lower score. But if they get a goal in the first 20 minutes, it's And set pieces, West Brom might pose a threat, I guess, but I don't. They got to win set pieces first of all.
Fabinho and Matip's working.
Yeah, I know.
I like it. It's a good partnership.
Yeah, they've just got to stay fit. I mean, Matip I like when he's fit. I think he's a good player. and he's someone I'm looking at this week, which I'll get on in a minute.
Finally,
Wolves versus Spurs. This is obviously Spurs going to win 5-0 and end up in the top 4, and then I don't have to pay 20. But in all seriousness, very difficult game to call. Wolves are a funny team this year. I mean, I just don't know what you're going to get with them. They were really disappointing at Burnley. Burnley outplayed them. They didn't just beat them. I mean, could have beaten one by more. Wolves, they started with Neto and Podence up top. Fabio Silva came on and got the pen, and I'm sure he'll start against Wolves, so they'll have a focal point. But he's so inexperienced, he's so green that it's difficult to expect too much from him. I just don't see many goals in this because Spurs will go and look to counter. Wolves are still a team in transition from being a counter-attacking team, and they're not yet convincing me that they can be a possession-based team and be more progressive in that way. So I'm going to go 1-1. I think there'll be a draw.
You're going for the as special.
You like. What are you thinking here?
I was also going to save my as special for this. I think 1-1. I think it's probably a fair representation of where they both are at the moment. I think they're both going to counter each other, both going to struggle to create lots of chances against decent backlines, and neither of them really look like they have the capability to really score a lot of goals. So yeah, I think 1-1 was probably a fair result.
I'll be interested to see how the Wolves formation, if they play 3 at the back, works against Spurs with Son out wide, and whether that shuts that down. I mean, you've got to think Nuno will. He's not naive. He'll know
Wolves,
how to play against him.
They've been really disappointing, haven't they, Wolves, this season? Like, I know they've had the injury, even before the injury to Jimenez, though, it was... They've just been really, they're a team who I always really look forward to watching. And this season, I don't have that at all. They're boring.
Yeah, and Podence and Neto, they could be players we look at with the double game week in mind. They've got okay fixtures, but they're just so unpredictable. You just don't know what you're going to get out of those two, and out of Wolves in particular. So in general, rather. So yeah, I think when Spurs fall behind as well, that's when they fell behind against Leicester, I was thinking, well, what are they going to do here? Because now they've got to go at Leicester, and Leicester look like they can absorb it. And I wonder whether the same could happen here. Wolves could get the lead, and then Spurs have got to try and break Wolves down, and that will work in Wolves' favour, I think, because they're used to playing like that. If it goes the other way and Spurs get ahead, then Spurs could win by a couple of clear goals. So it really depends on when that first goal goes in, I think. All right, let's look at our teams to round things off. So what are you doing then, Az? You got a hit up your sleeve, or 1 or 2 hits?
I would actually quite like your advice on this, because I've got a few things. I mean, my defence is a joke, right? I've got James. I mean, in fact, the screen grab you've got there doesn't even paint in its worst light.
No, because
James is now orange,
right.
Lamptey's now red. So James, Lamptey and Chilwell are all basically confirmed out of the next game, which means I have one fit defender, which is Eiling, who I don't even want.
Not really. At this stage in the game, with Leeds playing the way they are, he's not really a defender worth having, is he?
I don't even want him. So let me just try and sell you this -8 that I'm thinking of, which you'll probably be quite keen on, because the thought of me taking a -8 is probably quite nice to you. But I am thinking of taking Mahrez out, because Mahrez played 90 minutes in the game the other day. He got man of the match, but didn't have a particularly good game. He scored a free kick, which was kind of like fumbled into the net. I don't know if you saw it. It was absolutely ridiculous. And I just don't know if he's going to start. He might start. I thought he'd start against Southampton. Who knows? So the -8 I'm thinking of is Mahrez to Rafinha, who has Burnley at home and then West Brom. And then using that money, I could do either Reece James or Chilwell to Robertson. And then I could do Lamptey to Trent and Robertson. So basically, I'd be doubling up on the Liverpool defenders and getting Rafinha in. But that would be for a -8.
See, I don't think you're going to get a more certain clean sheet than in this game week than Liverpool at home to West Brom.
Well, that's what I'm thinking.
Nothing's certain, right? But you look at the threat that West Brom pose and the fact that Allardyce is going to go and try and minimise, he's going to keep it tight, try and minimise damage, try and catch them on the break, but West Brom don't really have much to catch them on the break with. It's only set pieces. That's what I'd worry about. but I think they could restrict them on set pieces. They'll keep them down to a few corners and free kicks. But Allardyce might, he's going to say to his strikers, right, get into the channels and win free kicks and corners. That's what he'll do, I think.
Yeah.
And so that's the danger, set pieces. And whether or not Allardyce has had long enough to work some things out with them, I don't think he has really, to be honest. I don't think it's long enough yet. So I think set pieces should be a minimal threat, but it'll be the route to goal. But I still think you've got to think that not only is there clean sheets for Alexander-Arnold and Robertson, that Liverpool are going to get a few goals. And
well, exactly.
Yeah,
and
so
they're
you've got to
probably
think,
going to be involved.
Yeah, exactly.
And the other good thing about them is they're all double game week players.
Yeah.
So it fits the strategy of bringing the double game week guys. There's lots of the only thing that's kind of put me off a bit is I have got Souček on the bench. So I could, in theory, play Souček over Mahrez if I don't think he's going to play, and just dump James and Lamptey or James and Chilwell. Maybe bring in like Diaz and Trent or Diaz and Cancelo or I don't know.
Right,
something
so
like
you could
that.
do a -4 rather than -8.
-4 rather than a -8. But I'm kind of thinking I need to do something a little bit different. I need to diversify my team a little bit because I'm not really gaining any ground. And it feels like the Liverpool double up in defence at the moment. They've got good fixtures. Trent and Robertson look like they're hitting form. Liverpool were hitting form in general as well. It might be the time to do it. So,
yeah, and I think you're getting 3 double game week players in there, and Rafinha, as we spoke about, is a cheaper double game week asset that's worth having. It seems, given that his threat over the last 4 game weeks has been strong. So I think it's a valid move. I think it's a good one.
-8 though.
Yeah, I'm going to go into game week 9, double game week 19 with 3 Liverpool players. I'm probably going to go 1 defender and Mane and Salah, probably.
Wow.
Just because they've got United and Burnley at set pieces, and I think United will score at Anfield. I've got a feeling that they'll trouble the Liverpool defence, and I think they could score. So I don't know in that double game week if there's 2 clean sheets there. And I do think Mane and Salah will both play both games because it's United, and hopefully they would have had the rest. They won't have played in the FA Cup, but we'll see about that. So I do think doubling on Liverpool attackers is the way I'm going to go with 1 Liverpool defender. But in your situation, you'd be stocking up on your Liverpool, so you'd have your Liverpool 3 booked in for 19, and you've got an outstanding fixture with potential to get that 8 points back with profit in this game week.
I mean, if Mahrez is benched and James and Lamptey don't play, then it's sensible because realistically you're going to make those 8 points back from the players not playing.
Yeah.
If Mahrez starts against Newcastle at home, though, I still don't really. The trouble is, even if Mahrez starts, I still don't really back him to deliver. So I'm just a bit done with him, to be honest.
Yeah. Sounds like
Rafinha feels like a big old punt, though. I'm not completely sold on him, but I think he's the best option around the 5.5, 6. I mean, like I said in the Scoutcast, Ben Rama was another one that's kind of being mooted, but he didn't play against Chelsea. Someone like Neto, 5.9, but doesn't have the double. There's a few options around. I think Rafinha probably is the strongest.
Yeah. Very tricky.
But Robertson and Trent, I don't think I can go wrong with Robertson and Trent.
Well, if you want differentials that have got great points potential in this game week, I think it's difficult to look beyond those 2, because I do think that there's clean sheet and more in that fixture for them, and so you're replacing players who aren't going to play, so you're not even you're gaining points just by getting the 2 points off.
Well, yeah,
right.
Exactly.
So. There's a good chance you'll get 4, if not 6 points back because Mahrez might not start. So the 8 points suddenly evaporates into 2, and then it's just down to whether they can.
And then I've got better players in my team.
And you've got double game week players. So I think it's very difficult to argue against it, to be honest. It all comes down to how you're feeling about Mahrez, if you feel he starts. But it's impossible to predict, I think that.
What I wanted to see from Mahrez last night was a man of the match performance, but a performance full of threat, which gave Pep no option but to play him. And what we got again was another average performance where he scored a free kick. Great. He got man of the match. From all accounts, he wasn't that great in the game. And I just wouldn't be surprised to see him benched again. He might play. We shouldn't have players in our team who every week we're thinking, is he going to play? Isn't he going to play? Is he going to play? Not defense wise. If you've got the bench to cover it, okay, but not attacking wise, because you've always got that chance of a 1 point, 2 point.
Yeah, so, I mean, I've got it with Cancelo, but you don't want it with an expensive midfielder.
No. I think he needs to go.
Yeah. Okay. My problem is Cancelo and Diaz because they both played against Arsenal, and at the moment,
wasn't expecting that.
No, I was expecting Diaz, but not Cancelo. So now I'm wondering. I don't think Cancelo plays against Newcastle. I just can't see it. So I think Walker will come in because he didn't start against Arsenal, and Mendy wasn't in the squad, so he comes in at left back. So I think there's a good chance Cancelo doesn't play, which means that I'm looking at possibly Chilwell out, Cancelo out, and get Kufau and Alexander-Arnold in. That would be for a hit. For the same reason, though, I think that's a good move because I think Alexander-Arnold's got at least a clean sheet in that game against West Brom, probably attacking returns as well. Not probably, but a good chance of that. That means keeping James, who is going to go in the wild card anyway. I don't think I'm going to hold James or Chilwell in the wild card anyway, so it doesn't make any difference about who I get rid of, really. The other option I've got is if I just get Chilwell out for Matip and play Matip, Cancelo, Diaz, hope that Cancelo starts, and if he doesn't, I've got Ayling coming in.
I'd do that.
Would you do that? Yeah. I mean, that's the conservative approach. But I like the idea of getting Trent in, just as you were saying as well.
Yeah.
It's just whether it's worth the hit.
I just feel like I want Diaz and Cancelo. And I know that this week isn't ideal for them because they both played in that game, but I do think they are the first choice defenders for City.
Yeah, but they're going to go in my wildcard. I'm wildcarding on Sunday night, and I'm not taking Cancelo and Diaz into the double game week. Like, I might take De Bruyne into it, or I might take Diaz. Right, I'm not going to take both of them. There's no way I'm going to take two Man City defenders into a double game week. Right, so at least one of them is going to go.
I just don't think you need to take a hit with that defence. Like, apart from you get rid of Chilwell or James for Matip, for example, and then one of Cancelo or Diaz doesn't play, then you got Ayling. Ayling isn't like, okay, we both think Leeds are going to consider. Really, Ayling isn't that bad. A home game against Burnley.
and I think most teams will have a Leeds defender playing this week. Right, I think they'll have a Dallas or an Ayling playing. So I think there's a good chance because of the.
And basically, you need that 4-point hit to pay off instantly because you're wild carding next week as well.
So it's only 1 week. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think you need to take the hit.
Yeah, unlike you, I don't need to get that transfer to get Alexander-Arnold in for the double game week because I've got the wild card, whereas you don't have that. So I don't think I'll do that. I think it will just be Matip in, but that's what I'm looking at. So elsewhere, I don't think I've got any problems. I mean, Salah's captain's obvious, and starting Souček against Brighton's not too bad. I don't think
he's in.
Yeah. Do you think Souček cause you problems?
Oh, undoubtedly.
Fair enough.
Undoubtedly.
We
can't handle crosses or set plays or anything.
No, it's fine. Fair enough. You should be able to, but you just seem to not be able to. I don't understand how that is the case either. Captain Matrix, we don't need to look at this too much. Going into game week 15, we highlighted Salah and De Bruyne before these fixtures came round, but going into it, Salah is overwhelmingly the most viable option for captaincy. I don't think De Bruyne rivals him that much. And looking ahead, the reason why Spurs assets are worth getting in on my wild card ahead of game week 16 is because Kane against Fulham and against Leeds, or at least Son against Fulham and Leeds, are massive captain must-haves, I would say. So if I don't get Spurs assets in with the wild card, even though they don't have a double game week, I'm exposed to that risk.
You haven't got Salah highlighted there though, but
yeah, Salah at home to Newcastle, I guess. Yeah, I guess he's the other one you'd fall back on. But I just think not having Kane or Son, I think is the risk. I may well captain Salah. You're right, absolutely. But I think there's going to be a lot of effective ownership on Kane and Son. That's the problem.
They're all good. I mean, obviously this list is designed to show the good fixtures, but any of Kane, Son, Salah v Newcastle, Fernandes v Wolves, or Vardy v Palace.
Yeah.
Any of those they're all going to do well, aren't they? You'd have thought. Yeah,
and even game week 17, Salah at Southampton's an option. But I do think not having a Spurs attacker or even both of them if you can, in 16 and 17 is going to expose you to a high effective ownership, as in there's going to be a lot of people who have them and captain them in those 2 game weeks. So that's the lesson learned from that. And the data for the captaincy for game week 15, we only really need to look at the defences. We don't need to look at the individual data. It is very close when you look at the players. We're talking about Salah, De Bruyne, Fernandes, Kane and Son. Salah is out on top for minutes per point, 9.2 minutes per point. Minutes per shot, 23, and minutes per shot in the box, 31.8. He's the highest of all the candidates for those 3. So he's top of those stats. But it's the defences. Look at West Brom's defence over the season and over the last 4 matches. And they are overwhelmingly the most porous defence on offer for the teams that the heavy hitters play against. So De Bruyne against Newcastle, Fernandes against Leicester, Kane and Son against Wolves. Newcastle, Wolves and Leicester, their defences are a lot stronger than the West Brom defence. So you can't put an argument up, can you? It's got to be Salah, isn't it?
I mean, 30, he's benched. Everyone knew he was going to be benched. Everyone was unhappy. 33 minutes, 16 points. Incredible. It's his best ever start to a season.
That's crazy, isn't it?
Salah. And you think about, I mean, he got 32 goals in 17-18. And this is his best start ever. So God knows what he's capable of getting this season. He's just an absolute machine. I love that man. He's just relentless.
Yeah, and to think, I was thinking about not getting him back for that Fulham game, and actually thinking, did I make a mistake? And then the games after that, it's not been the Fulham game that he's really rewarded us. It's been the following fixtures. And Spurs and Palace. I thank the maker I got him back and didn't talk myself out of that. I nearly did, and I would have been floundering. So yeah, he's just unbelievable. He's just an unbelievable FPL asset, which is very difficult to do without. And if you do without him, you end up getting found out, unfortunately. Okay, so that's an easy decision to make at a time when every other decision seems quite difficult. And we've gone well over 2 hours tonight as a result of the double game week chat and your additional
the longest one we've done, hasn't
it? It has been. I'm not surprised because we had a lot to digest with that, and we will cut this up into some smaller videos ahead of the deadline on Saturday, so don't fear. If you didn't get through all of this, you'll be able to catch up on the highlights vids that I will do. So we're going to be back on Sunday, aren't we? We don't know what time. It's going to be sometime on Sunday. My wildcard will be active, and you'll see if you'll be able to talk me into anything outlandish. Are you looking forward to that?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, we'll see. Interesting, because your team doesn't look like it needs loads of surgery, so it's going to be interesting whether you bin loads of good players off and bring them in. So
well, I'll have to, I think. I'm not looking forward to that. It's going to be hard to say goodbye to some of those players.
Yeah, I mean, the only way though you're gonna see Mark's wildcard team is if you subscribe to the BlackBox YouTube channel, because you'll get a notification when we go live. I mean, we don't even know when we're going to go live, let alone when you will. So make sure you sub. Make sure you like this video. There's 1,348 people watching. We've only got 250 likes. That's quite poor. So we'd appreciate your likes. They do mean a lot. Help us grow the channel. But yeah, that's it from me. Smash the buttons as usual. Yeah. And happy Christmas. I said happy Christmas last week.
You did. You were a bit early, and
I was a bit early.
We've got to say it this week because obviously, Merry Christmas. Have a great day, and we'll see you on the 27th. It will be a lo-fi version of the Black Box. We won't do any prep. We'll just come straight on screen, drinks in hand, with my team on screen, and we'll just ramble, right? So don't expect any stats or any data or any research. It'll just be me and Az in the raw, so to speak. I'm getting back to that again. Don't want to go back there again, do we?
It always comes back to this.
I know, I'm obsessed. It's a good night for me.
Good night, everyone.